What is going on, everybody? We are live. The Xbox 2 podcast is coming at you, but minus one Jez Corden because he decided to go swimming with the fishes in the ocean down in Hawaii. So with Jez gone, I had to call in some reinforcements. And today, joining me for this illustrious episode, I believe it's 352. I could be wrong. I don't really know. We have the one, the only, Lord Cognito. What's going on, Cog?
What's going on, Rand? I got the call. You know what I'm saying? It was good to hear from you. It actually came together late because I had so much going on. It's been a crazy week for me. Not all good, but I figure, you know what? I need some therapy time. Talk to the homies. Talk some games. Colt in the building, you know what I mean? And I miss Duke. That's rare. So, like, I've been kind of itching to talk a little bit. So I was like, I'm actually glad you hit me. And this actually worked out schedule-wise. So I had to help the homie out real quick. How you been, man?
I've been all right. You know, it's funny because originally you were like, oh, I might have to do next week because Jez isn't going to be here next week either. So I'm going to have to find more people. But then you were like, oh, wait, I got to do something next Friday. So we're lucky enough to pair you up with our next guest, the one and only Colt Eastwood. What's up, buddy?
Not much. Thank goodness there's only one of me.
Yeah. If there was more than you, I don't know how people could cope. Realistically,
I can't even deal with myself sometimes. But yeah, like Cog, it's been a crazy week. Already put out 2 videos this week, so you know it's been kind of a quiet news week. But people are still like buzzing about everything going on. We'll talk about it today. It's good to be here.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm of course one of your hosts, Randall Thor19, the man with the million. And this is the Xbox 2 podcast, where we talk about whatever we damn well please. From everything in the industry. Obviously, Xbox is at forefront, but we'll talk about everything in between. And I don't even know where to start, because Jez usually is here. Jez usually grabs a bunch of stuff. Well, I actually grab a bunch of stuff. But Jez does the Patreon stuff, which I looked and wasn't updated, so he's shirking his duty over there. So I guess I'll just quickly give a shout out to some of the Patreon members who are signed up for the Xbox 2 MVP tier. We got D, Big, Fluffy Bunny, Resin Force, iMike Zero, Tier, Shrapnel, Inner Machine, Just James 93, Holy Dark Death, Steve Stompy, 09C Mine, James Wiseau, Tricks for Trey, Laser Wolf, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Ryan Kipple for an Object, RS Donks, Randall Thor 19, Silas, James Moore, Fantasticals, K-Rox, Bright Tundra 1, Discarded Caboose, Justin Duel, Frank Mariano, Sean Kramer, PB Bro King, Asa T and Madison, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Wagerman, Pat Rock, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Tropy, Briggs Country, Prof JJJ, and Wolfgang KPZ. Appreciate everybody who, is a Patreon member. And I don't know if the Patreon question and answers is up because Jez has access to that and I don't. So people are saying I'm low in the, hold on. I think Discord actually just changed my...
When they changed the settings up on you?
Yeah, I think they did. It lowered my mic settings.
There you go.
It lowered my mic setting by a lot. Holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I should be back to regular volume. It's weird. I don't know. Discord normally doesn't do that. It's kind of why I use Discord app and not like the Discord webpage. Because I noticed the webpage will change your volume. And
yeah, it could be another program.
So
that will change.
Apparently,
your audio.
it changed my volume setting because it lowered it an extreme amount. So,
and Cog and I are running the Shure SN7B, so we're at ultimate peak audio.
Yeah,
peak
at
audio.
all times.
Peak audio.
All times.
So there's always audio issues
good.
with this stuff. So I think we're back good.
We're good. They said you're good. You
so
go back
good.
to what you're doing.
Yeah, I heard the difference. You sound good, bro.
All right, good. I don't know, that's so weird. But anyways, thank you guys for being here. If you enjoying the show, hit the like button and share this out to let everybody know that we have some guests here, some illustrious members of, the gaming community, the Xbox community, and 2 of my best friends. I talk to Colton Cognito pretty much multiple times a week. So I love having them on anytime there's an opportunity. So, you know what I figure? We talk about Avowed just for a little bit, because I know it's a game that I played all pretty much this week, or most of this week, I think, up until a couple days ago. And Colt, I know you have explored every single inch of the Living Lands, and Cognito, you're kind of just, you're not finished with it yet, but you're getting there because you had some things going on that kind of prevented you from playing it right away. So I guess I'll go with you, Cog. How's your journey into Obsidian, the BlackRock, perhaps maybe one of your favorite Xbox studios?
Yes, Obsidian is my favorite Xbox studio. Yeah, I'm late to the party. Everybody was having fun. You know, I'm doing a whole bunch of games at one time. There's so much going on. So time has been really limited. So this is kind of like the first week where I'm like, let me try to now make a dent in Avowed and see what's going on. So, bro, like, I have to admit, like, I didn't expect. I got to be careful what I'm about to say because I haven't beat it yet, but I'm probably about the 4th zone, right? And I will say, as far as from a environment standpoint, a world standpoint, it's hard pressed for me not to say this is one of the best worlds they've ever created. And I'm not familiar with the Pillars universe at all, so I don't know the lore. I don't know. There's still stuff that's above my head. But in terms of biomes, I'm talking about, you know, like you start off as something like Dawn Shore, and you got these, you know, these rolling hills, you got water, you got all these things going on. You could swim to the bottom of the ocean. And the thing about Avowed that I'm loving, that the gameplay loop is really addicting, is Avowed respects and rewards my curiosity. Anytime I go, wait a minute, what's that this in the distance? What's that shimmering? What's that, you know, weird looking temple? Or what's this? Like, it is something about it that this game will say, okay, you curious about it? Go check it out. And it'll turn into its own quest. And a lot of times I am not doing the main quest. Like, I get so enamored by all the things I can explore and do. And then you throw that together with this super satisfying combat loop that is the most versatile combat loop I've really seen in a game. I have to rethink the way I play. Like most games, you know, if you're a mage, you can only do things in the mage class. Avowed is like, no, you could do that, but you want a fighter's parry, you want a shield block, I took the hunter's route where I you know, lock an enemy down in place, and then I'm using my mage spells. I'm using two-handed weapon. Look, is the game perfect? No, there's some flaws. There's some things that I'm like, I guess if I'm coming from Kingdom Come Deliverance, from like a super hardcore, this is your dad's RPG, bro. There's some things that you could tell that they've gone with accessibility as far as making it easier. You could stash things, you know, and do different things like that. Most people, and from a skill check standpoint, it's about like kind of how you are, that allows different dialogue options as opposed to, you know, hard and fast skill checks that most traditional RPG guys look at. But I'm gonna tell you right now, the fact that I'm playing this game the way I'm playing it, and I am thoroughly addicted and not doing the main quest, and literally, Cole, I am clearing out entire maps. I'm doing the treasures. I'm doing everything, bro, and I'm having a ball where the ultimate determination for me is gonna be obviously how I end, and then how do the choices truly matter or be impactful. But I have to admit, from a pure environment, I know New Vegas guys, you're gonna come at me. From a pure environment standpoint, the beauty of the Living Lands, at Rand at night, you see this thing glow in the sky. You go off to a shore, you see the coastal rocks. Like, bro, this is something, man. Like, this game feels really beautiful, really fun to play in, and I'm actually having a ball.
And you said, I think you told me you're in the third area, the third hub.
Yeah, so the one where it's like a lot of fire going on right now.
So you're in the fourth area with the lava?
Okay. Bro, I just cleared out.
Okay.
Yeah, I just got there. I did some crazy stuff, and there was some major decisions that I just, had to deal with.
Yeah, major decisions in the last area for sure.
Yeah. That's it. So, like, I got to see where the story's going to land. I just got to see where that's going to land. Because I will say, like, as a person who I've never played a Pillars game, and I'm like, what is going? Like, I'm using the glossary, bro. I'm like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, the dialogue, lore, and history definitely got used during my playthrough too. Because I'm like, what is he talking about? You know.
Yeah.
Colt, how you feeling? I mean, you put in, I think I have like 67 hours in the game. You had way more than me. I think you had about around 80-ish, I think.
Yeah, I'm close to 100 with, I got to like level 15 on a second playthrough, and, I had, I don't know, 15 plus hours in the preview. So I kind of got Dawn short out, but the game's it's a fantastic game. And I really like how Avowed just doesn't try to be everything. And there's a lot of unfair criticism that it's not as expansive
it's not
or
Skyrim,
as
essentially.
Yeah, it's not Skyrim. Even, they said that many times. They wanted people to know. But I think the real strength of Avowed is that it is this contained action adventure RPG that gives you everything at your fingertips immediately. And we all love Skyrim, but when you want to do all that cool stuff you do in Avowed, you're hitting the B button, you're going over to the fly out left and right menus, and you're going in and selecting stuff. Combat is a very slow and painstaking thing to be able to do all the stuff you do in Avowed. Like Cog said, going around in the world, if you want to climb up and over and under and through things to see if there's something there usually is. There's always a reward behind the waterfall or in the cave or burning a bramble or whatever. The little mini puzzles, they're not frustrating. They're just enjoyable and satisfying. Like, people made fun of me for using words like chewy and crunchy and ooey gooey because, like, to me, Avowed just has that like, when you're eating it, like when you bite into a burger and it's got the chewy, it's got the crunchy, it's got the everything. And I felt like that when I played Avowed. It just has a great combat feel. It's got beautiful presentation. The music's amazing by Venus Theory, really great composer. The music swells dynamically, just the whole feel. And I didn't expect that. And once I understood early on that Avowed is this really great, contained, and well-packaged action-adventure RPG that just doesn't waste your time. You just go out and you just discover and you get in fights and you clear out the world, that's why you're there, to clear the Dream Scourge. And you actually physically clear out every enemy, and I've made an impact. You don't have respawning chests. Loot doesn't just respawn like so many games have done in modern times, where it doesn't feel like you're being affected or affecting the world. So I really enjoyed it. And I'll just end this by saying Avowed, it's a mid game. It's an 82 on OpenCritic, but everyone has to convince everybody else that it's so mid. But man, I think Obsidian is really special. That's my speech.
That's your speech.
I gotta ask y'all real quick, what build y'all doing, man? Because like on my one, I'm doing Grimoire. I'm doing one. I got the shock one. I showed the clip yesterday. I'm shocking guys in place, keeping them. And the thing that's crazy is there's another spell that I got, like this meteor thing, where it'll like hang over them and it'll shoot out and then do high stun. Then on my second build, I've got this shock pistol, right? And then I also got like this spear. So like everything I'm kind of like leaning into shock and stun. And the things that I'm doing in controlling the room, and I just got this Rand. I got this thing called the Arcade Seal, where you put it down on the ground as a mage. It's like you're doing some little blood magic pentagram, just standing it. And bro, the essence, your essence keeps going up if you stand there. So like a lot of times you can, like, I'll overlook a mountaintop or like overlook like a high elevated area and I'll see enemies. I'll put the seal down and I start conjuring up my stuff and I'm just throwing unlimited essence, bro. It's crazy.
I haven't seen that.
Bro, it's called it's something to seal. It's like the level 20.
I know what you're talking about. It's like it's a high level spell. Basically, you put something on the ground and if you stand in it, your spells are uninterruptible and you basically like regenerate essence while you're
on top of that.
Yeah.
I got this other thing called Arcane Veil, which puts up like this shield on me.
The ward,
the ward. But if you put it to level 2, enemies that shoot like arrows, it'll bounce off me and hit them. So like it's ridiculous, bro. I'm getting crazy. My Harry Potter son, like I'm on some dark mage.
That's what I was doing. I was like, I got my Harry Potter on. I told Colt from the beginning, because I didn't think the beginning island, tutorial island, that North Shore place was a very good start to the game. It actually kind of made me not want to play because for whatever reason, the only weapon I could find in the beginning was the dagger. And I'm like, this isn't really fun.
Oh, it's probably your starting class. Because I went court or Organ. Where did you go with your starting class?
I went with like arcane arcane
Yes,
dude.
Yeah, that's what.
arcane. That's their
That's
de
what
facto
determines
weapon.
what-
Yeah.
yeah.
So it wasn't.
But you, I mean, you can grab a sword like.
Well, yeah, you do get a
like
sword
half an
and
hour
stuff,
in
but
or
it was just
whatever.
that initial impression of like,
Yeah.
as dagger's not really fun. But I ran two different builds. Had my wand in my one hand with my Grimmer Burk in the left, and I would switch to my sword and board because like the physical combat, or at least the sword combat, really clicked for me when I unlocked parrying on the Ranger tree. So I had a lot of points in the Ranger tree and a lot of points in the Wizard tree. And there was this one skill you get at level 20. I tried it out because the game lets you be whatever you want, and if you don't like your build, you can respect for a certain amount of money, which I appreciate. I don't like being locked into something, so I was like, okay, well, what if I don't like this? It's not a big deal. But Cole, do you remember when I told you to get Fury of Blows in the Ranger tree?
Oh yeah,
How
this
is
is
that?
like way.
I saw that. How
That's
is
way
that?
in the end.
It's like
way
level
down in
20.
the bottom left.
Yeah.
But yeah, it allows you to for about 20 seconds you have like triple speed melee or wand casts.
And
so you're like whack 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 whack. And
that affects
Rand and I
the
pretty much
wands?
had
Oh, I
the
didn't know
same
that.
build.
Oh yeah.
We were running Grimoire and wand, and then sword and board on the other one, and we kept the same sword. And we're gonna keep this spoiler free because some people are only a couple days into the game.
Yeah, for sure.
But what I'm telling you now is Rand and I got a build in the opening few hours of the game, and we couldn't. I tried going away from it, but I just loved what I was doing so much. So there was a lot of things that I missed out on. I didn't do any two-handed weapons, which is big two-handed axes and big heavy swords and stuff like that. And I would, every time I would use those, I'm like, but I want to go back to what I was enjoying. But they let you just switch up whatever you want on the fly.
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
Parrying was great because like you'd see the enemies come, so I would take them at a distance with the wand and my spells. I love casting the blizzard spell where you'd have them in a circle and you would call down the blizzard on them. And then if they got close, you bust out your sword and your board and you're just parrying from the Ranger tree. Like I felt the Ranger tree and the Wizard tree were the best. Like there wasn't even really anything I wanted on the
but let me tell you,
fighter tree.
Addict showed me that fighter tree war cry could get busted. And then like you could control whole rooms and you could go into this heavy stun build. And even on some bosses sometimes you could kind of lock groups of enemies down temporarily before you wail on them with the melee attack. So I'm learning that fighters got some stuff too. Like it's crazy. They think about the thing that makes Avowed amazing is the fact that I can't think of other game that truly allows you to synergize all these classes the way you want and then have two loadouts with the Y button on the fly. Like it truly makes you think differently because most games lock you into your class, right? You can mix and match it Avowed, and that's the part that's just, man, it's addicting, man. As far, like I said, environment and combat is just probably the most fun I've played. Now, there's other issues. I know people got things with, people looking at NPCs these days, and I don't know where these Skyrim comparisons are coming from. Okay, fine. But in terms of how much fun I'm having with those two aspects of the gameplay, it's really hard to beat those two. It's they have a foundation for something, but I hope we get DLC. I mean, like we interviewed Carrie.
Yeah. What do you guys want? Do you want them to just go to Avowed 2? Do you want them to do DLCs and expansions for this game? I mean, what is your preferred way to go from this? Do you want them to do you want an Avowed 2 where it's a sequel where you play as the envoy and it's set years later? Would you rather them just maybe have a different part of the world but still call it Avowed? Like what would you want them to do?
They would do. I mean, I think they would do both. If they were going to do a sequel, they would support it with DLC and keep people like chugging along and enjoying Avowed while they work on a sequel down the road. So I don't think you have to pick or choose. I hope that Avowed is successful enough that they want to make a second game. I would like to see a sequel because I like Outer Worlds a lot, and I went back to play it last 2 months ago, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this again. But I know when I get into Outer Worlds 2, I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh. So I'm with Cog. Like Obsidian Entertainment is such a gem in the Xbox Game Studios like pocketbook. They're amazing.
Yeah, and you're someone who
people don't realize it. I mean, I know you and I talk about it a little bit, or you talk about it a little bit, I talk about it a lot, but Grounded, their game that was made by 12 people, is like probably one of the top games of 2022.
I played that whole
and most
game
people don't
co-op
realize it.
with you.
Ground is fire.
It's amazing.
It was, and it surprised me because originally when that game was revealed, Grounded, I think it was like XO19, 2019.
Mm-hmm. We all laughed at it.
We all laughed at it because of the way it looked in the trailers. But then, like, you get into the game and you're first person and you see, like, wow, this actually looks cool. And I'm not a survival fan, so when me and Cole played through it, I made sure I'm turning off the fact that you need to eat or need to drink or any of that stuff. Like, I just do not jive with that. But me and Cole had a blast playing it. Now you mentioned the game being a success, Cole, but I saw this earlier today. Yeah, that's
a whole can of worms.
Hazador retweeted this because there's a Bloomberg article. And I guess they interviewed Carrie Patel, and she said, the company is happy with sales so far. Quote, players have raved about the game, and the company said it is happy with sales so far. So
that's something that Square Enix doesn't normally say. I mean, sorry. No.
Yeah,
I always hear Square Enix say the opposite. I mean, I hope so. It's not uncommon for a brand new game to be in the Steam top seller list, but people, that's kind of a can of worms discussion with that, because Kingdom Come Deliverance was at the top of the sales charts, but it has 10 times more concurrent players on Steam. Yeah. But Kingdom Come Deliverance isn't available to 8 million active Game Pass users, and I think that's a fair statement for me to say, that Avowed is available to 30 million Game Pass subscribers, which of 8 million of those are probably fairly active on installing games and launching them and playing them a little bit. So seeing a Steam concurrent number is not always the best measurement, but it kind of gives you an idea. But hearing them say that it's successful, I'd have to take them at their word.
I'm so, man. I'm really pulling for this game. And at the end of the day, I think the foundation is something special. To your question, Rand, I definitely, obviously, on Final Duke, we had Carrie Patel on. I kind of shot my shot, and it was as far as like the future. And she definitely alluded to me that, like, yeah, we could be working on more stuff. That kind of thing. She didn't outright say it, but it felt like it was alluded to. So I think we'll get DLC. I think what I would like them to do is kind of, the knocks on the game would be from the hardcore perspective of like, okay, I want a more narratively reactive world. Some people that have beat it have some issues with, the choice and consequence and stuff like that are truly impactful from like their games like, New Vegas and stuff like that. So that would be cool. Just to kind of try to dive back into like hardcore RPG sensibilities with maybe like an expansion. Like I know like they've done, I think of then games like, like Far Harbor for Fallout and stuff like that, where you kind of take that next step. And, when we spoke to her, people don't realize like, that's why I laugh at the Skyrim comparisons, because I think Fergus made the comment stating that they brought their scale in and they said, hey, we want to do hub world. Let's do what we do best, which is these really dense hub worlds. And then when Carrie Patel got on, she actually mentioned that, it was a co-op game. If I remember, Xbox 2 just caught it.
Yeah.
You guys broke that.
That was before. Yeah, that was before the switching. Like they had a new creative director come in and they changed the game. I mean, they've talked about that publicly.
Right. But, and so that's why, to your point, they never said they were going to be Skyrim. They were like, bro, with the initial pitch at the beginning, and then they said, no, this is, with scope's too big. Let's do what we do. If you know Obsidian games, they are hub worlds, dense, choice and consequences. So they went back to those roots. But to your point, in mid-development, when I spoke to Carrie, she was like, yeah, it had just switched from being a co-op game to now what it is now. So to me, for them to get the game in this good a state, considering all the iterations and metamorphoses that the game did go through, right, to now have this satisfying game. So now let's appeal to the hardcore guys. Because remember, I'm coming from a KCD, right? KCD is like super skill check, major choice where stuff is extremely divergent on every little thing, and maybe you could lean into that with the DLC. And hey, man, you give me about 2 or 3 of these and it does well, and an Avowed too. Hey, I'm in, man. I think the foundation is something special.
What does co-op mean to you in Avowed? Like, what do you imagine that game was like 2-player co-op, or we
Probably
talking
two.
Redfall situation?
I'm thinking too, because I could see, I think Rand, me and you talked about this. I could see remnants of it because with the companions, I feel like if you, again, we're going to say like, I could see a situation was like, okay, Colt, you're Kai, I'm Marius, you know what I'm saying? What you call Giada, you know what I mean? Like, I could see how, like, almost like a Redfall, like all 4 of them could have been playable characters. And thus, that's why I said they didn't really dive outside of, let's be real. Kai is, that's our homie, Rand. That's Garrus.
Yeah,
Mass
Garrus.
Effect. You know what I'm saying? That's Garrus. So it's like outside of him, and I will say, I don't want to spoil because a lot of people still haven't played. There's one other character that I think is absolutely hilarious that you get later. And very horny, but that's another story. But
that's the love of my life.
She is wild. Like that's my number 2 right now. I will say
Did
that
you?
the character. Yeah, okay, so what you gonna say, right?
Sorry, I gotta add.
Go.
So did you
Go for it?
Did you there's you get in like the 3rd level, and there's like this big oasis like lake,
bro,
and there's this
the surfer dude with the shirt off.
Surfer dude with the bleach blonde hair, and he's like, "Yo, bro, what a perfect time to take a dip."
Yes,
and then the Yahtzee, everybody knows about the blue and pink and white like cat girl, right?
Yes.
Yahtzee like makes a suggestive comment, and he turns her and goes, "Yo, I'm gonna need a step ladder if we're gonna get down," or something like that.
Cole, I swear to God, you read my mind. I literally have that on my Xbox DVR clipped. I was gonna post it and put a laughing meme, but I was like, "Yo, this," because my character, I go like, "Bro, ain't you a little exposed to be out here? Like, why you so exposed like this?"
So Kage gave her the ladder, bro. You gave her that ladder?
Your man wanted to, you know what I'm saying? He wanted. He told her, he's like, "Look, if you get a ladder, me and you can play."
Yeah, and I gotta say the comedy, the humor in the game is so good, and me coming off playing Veilguard. Sorry, holy crap. Veilguard was like, I couldn't stand the humor in that game. It was so bad. And then I hear, we'll just call him Garrus. You hear Garrus's quips, like he's always smart and witty. And then Yahtzee was funny, and it was just, I just was really impressed. Like the charm is missing in a lot of games sometimes like that.
Yeah,
So
classic Obsidian. And there's one other quest, well, I'll spoil it, where someone wants you to get their crew together. And I did this quest, and you know how you got a bad feeling about somebody, and I'm doing all this. I'm like, man, I don't know. And I didn't pass enough skill checks, and something super foul happened as a result of me forcing people to kind of do something for someone else and against their kind of better judgment. And it was so funny. It was foul, but it was funny. I was like, I felt bad. I'm like, damn, I can't believe I did that to these people. Like, I don't want to spoil too much, but it'll have moments like that. So it's just, again, that's the classic Obsidian, that's right. And I get it. Will I say this is better than New Vegas? No. You know what I'm saying? Is it their best top? No. But as far as the things that it does well, I feel there's two things that it does well is best in class. And that to me is environment, world, combat. Now you just got to put that rest of that Obsidian hardcore RPG sauce on it. Now that would have got you to that, that 9 that Rand was looking for, you know what I'm saying? Or that whatever, that to me is what separates it. But it's still a fantastic game.
Yeah. Makes me interested for Outer Worlds 2 later this year. I know a lot of people really like Outer Worlds 1. I think that game reviewed like in mid-80s, and it was nominated for Game of the Year at the Keeleys. So they do have a lot to live up there in that regard, right? Like Avowed was like, okay, it's in the Pillars universe, but it's separate. It didn't come with like expectations and baggage in that way that Outer Worlds does, because now people are like, all right, this is the sequel to a pretty highly rated game and a Game of the Year contender. So how are we going to take this to the next step? So we'll see what they do then. Moving on from Avowed, which is the current talk of the land. Everybody it seems got an opinion about it on Twitter or on social media. People love it, or people love the combat, and other people will be like, they don't even move in the towns, bro. I'm so
you can't even pickpocket.
And it's like, they don't, but that didn't really bother me. You can't even kill regular people in the game. It's like, no, you can't.
You could freeze the water
Yeah.
in Zelda and Minecraft. That's nothing
Yeah,
new.
you could freeze the water, walk over it and stuff. So a lot of opinions floating around about Avowed, especially from people who haven't played it and probably never will, right? So we do have a super chat here from Kubini Gaming for $5. He said, I'm hearing 2025 summer for Avowed. By a lot of people on the other side, I feel more like 2026, if at all. Thoughts? I would assume
PS5?
you mean for PlayStation. I mean,
seems kind of soon.
I mean, it could come at any point. There's, usually you think about this stuff, and maybe it's like 6 months. I don't know how long it would take them to get a port ready. Like Hellblade 2 came out a year ago, or close to a year ago, and it's not on PlayStation yet.
Not even announced yet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I think the announcement's coming soon.
April.
Yeah, so it's like one of those things where, like, yeah, maybe by summer, but Xbox also has a lot of other games that are going to be releasing on PlayStation in the coming months, so...
I also don't know what Obsidian's Avowed team is working on. We just saw that report. Fergus said that they're up to 245 people plus partnered studios that are working on their 2 projects. And I know that they've been really busy putting out big patches for Avowed, so you just kind of have to take your best guess on when they would be carving out time to start working on a PS5 port. And I don't say it's too soon because I don't want it to go to PS5. I just think they just barely launched the game, and I think they probably have their hands tied. I think Avowed is just going to kind of be the victim of a later port just because they're so busy right now.
I would agree so, and also because of the fact we do know Outer Worlds 2 is doing the simultaneous, right?
Yes.
Port.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of resources going to be there. So yeah, I think just like I think you made it at the point before, Rand, or Jez, like it's going to be like exclusive based on circumstance right now until they have the time. And to your point, Colt, which is I'm impressed with the amount of patches and the frequency that we're seeing on what you call it, as far as right now. And they just got to do one thing though, like on Xbox performance mode. And I think me and Rand, we talked about this behind the scene. They've got to fix this weird frame rate issue only in certain like cutscenes, dialogue scenes, where like 2 people are 60 and 1 person's at 30 frames per second. You like, bro, what's going on with this? And it can be jarring sometimes because I'm not noticing PC guys kind of mention that, but I'm seeing it on.
You're the only other person besides me who talked about that. I thought maybe like I was the only person that it happened to in my playthrough, and I remember telling Colt about it. I was like, dude, whenever there's like more than 2 people in a conversation, it seems like one of them is going to be running at 30 frames and the other one's in 60. And to me, it felt like a bug.
Yes,
it was just it's so odd. So I don't know. Hopefully they fix that. Indiana Jones, we got gameplay up, and they just put out a patch for that game, a big patch, fixing a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, it did not fix my issue that's preventing me from getting everything. Yeah, like I have 2 cogs that I cannot. It's funny, cogs. I have 2 cogs that I cannot interact with. And to solve the couple of these, one of these puzzles, it's the last puzzle I need to solve, and they're uninteractable.
Vatican?
No, in Sukhothai.
Oh, Sukhothai.
Yeah, so there's those cog puzzles. I've there's these 2 big cog puzzles that you're supposed cog wheels on the ground. You're supposed to be able to pick up and place in the puzzle, but they're still uninteractable, so I can't do anything with them. And they said that was supposed to be fixed, and it's not fixed. So I'm calling you out, Bethesda Machine Games. You better fix this stuff.
Gotcha.
You're gonna make me angry.
Plus Rand need them achievements, the million. Oh,
I mean, it's preventing me from getting 1,000, bro. Like I'm literally, it's the last one. It's the last one, and it's just like.
And you got all the artifacts for the joint?
I got 49 out of 50 artifacts. This is the thing that's preventing me from getting the 50. So.
Yeah, because I want to know about that other little in-game
the secret
thing.
ending thing.
Yeah, I want to know. Yeah.
I mean, there's videos out of that. I think Maka.
Maka got it.
Maka had a guide about it, but. Nerds and Legends with the $5 super chat says, in my opinion, Avowed is more fantasy Mass Effect than Obsidian Skyrim. I see that comparison a lot. Also, I'll say it, Obsidian's greater than Bethesda at the moment.
Oh, I've been hearing this recently as well.
Oh, that's a big one right now. The talk
Obsidian
is talk.
Greater than Bethesda.
I mean, from a consistency standpoint, you could make the argument Obsidian's is like Xbox's Insomniac in terms of just the amount of the work rate, the production, and the quality. Now, again, well, some will knock though Avowed and say, "Hey, this ain't that 90 though," right?
True.
And to defend the Bethesda squad, you gotta have a Skyrim and Oblivion in your catalog. You gotta have one of those. And I'm not saying Obsidian doesn't; their games are great, but I feel like no, people say no, but people say they did. New Vegas is a better Fallout game than Bethesda.
Yeah, I mean,
most people say
most people say New
Rand won't
Vegas
play
is
it.
better than Fallout 3.
I love both of them. This is hard for me, man. I will say that though, if you have a Skyrim is like Michael Jackson's Thriller to me. So it's like if you have that in your catalog, you could kind of make whack albums for the rest of your life. and people will always, but the argument for Obsidian is like, what have you done for me lately, right? And the argument for Obsidian guys be like, yo, them dudes fell off. We the new way, and we more consistent. We keep giving you quality. It's a good argument. Look, they both Xbox games.
Obsidian's put out 10 games in the past decade that average an 83 out of 100 on OpenCritic. So their lowest rated game is one that I'd never heard of before, but I mean, they've been doing amazing. I didn't like Pentiment, but it was like an 88 or 89.
Yeah.
And they're amazing. They're amazing studio. And when Bethesda cannot lean on, we made Michael Jackson's Thriller in 2011. Like they can't lean on that anymore. And Starfield's amazing. I've got over 400 hours into it. I love it, but I played it long enough to realize, man, it's missing a few of those ooey, chewy, and good, yummy, like chocolate chip granola bars, It's missing a couple things that Fallout 4 and Fallout 3 did for me, or Skyrim, that I'm like, why didn't you put this in Starfield? It would have made the perfect package. Yeah. Anyway. But
it's a good question. I like that one. Rand, real quick, I'm curious for you. Who's the champ between the two? Who you got?
Well, I mean, I did like Starfield more than I like Avowed. So there
Starborn.
is that. I mean, Starborn.
Starborn.
It's hard to really say, do I like Avowed more than Skyrim or Oblivion, because it has been a long time since I played Skyrim. I played Skyrim in 2011, so it's like, I don't know.
I think you're a Bethesda guy. You're a Fallout guy, right?
Yeah. No, I'm not a Fallout guy.
Oh, you're not a Fallout guy.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean,
you're in the middle. So you probably have the most.
We'll see how like Outer Worlds 2. We'll see how Outer Worlds 2 does at the end of the year.
Okay.
And I mean, they do have Grounded in their pocket, which I really liked. And the problem is we won't know what how like Bethesda's going to come back from Starfield. We know their next game's Elder Scrolls. And I do have that as a topic because there was hold on, let me read this so I can get it right. Bethesda is offering fans a once in a lifetime opportunity via charity auction, right? Basically, it allows you to immortalize yourself in one of the most highly anticipated video games of all time, Elder Scrolls 6. And you can basically you make your own NPC character. You can make yourself in the game, blah blah blah, right? Now, the thing about this is that some fans have sort of said because they're doing this, that they can kind of figure out when Elder Scrolls 6 is going to launch, because apparently they did it for Starfield as well. And I guess from when they did it with Starfield, it was 2.5 years until the game came out. So some of these fans are like, okay, well, if we're starting it now, 2.5 years would be September of 2027.
Yeah, but Starfield got a unusual year-long delay.
It did. That is true.
I just want to add that in.
That is true. That is true. So, and there was that thing at the FTC trial where Xbox said like one of the games that they were making were going to be like 10 years in development. And people were wondering.
And there's a quote from Phil saying that Elder Scrolls 6 isn't coming out till at least 2026.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives you a window.
Some fans think there's a possibility that, Elder Scrolls 6 would be launching in, 2.5 years in 2027. So, I mean, that. I know. When I was thinking about that, when I was thinking about that idea
Gog's lighting a cigar.
of 2 years from now, right? Like
These
2.5
are those
years.
Rand outdoor predictions.
Oh no, this isn't my prediction.
Yeah,
this
come
is
on.
something that someone sent me.
Yeah, educated guess. Go ahead.
So 2 years away. Let me ask you this. We have the showcase coming in 4 months. 4 months, yeah, less than 4 months because it's February. So if Elder Scrolls 6 is coming in 2027, do you think that could be the one last thing at the show as a reveal? I mean, think about it. Like Elder Scrolls.
I have a lot to say on this.
If it's 2027, it's 2 years away, which I think is kind of right in the sweet spot for when you should announce a game, right? I do think it's great that we're getting into, like, we're no longer announcing game 5 years out anymore, right? Like how Xbox used to do, how PlayStation did for some of their games in, like, early last generation. I feel like 2 is the sweet spot where you announce it, and then the next year you maybe get some gameplay, and then the next year, boom, it's out. I think that's great. I love it how this year you're even getting into things like Ninja Gaiden 4. They reveal it, and boom, it's out the same year, right? The Oblivion remake would be something similar. So, I don't know. What do you think about that idea of Elder Scrolls 6 being 2027 and then it being like the final thing at an Xbox show? Because, I mean, come on, it's Elder Scrolls. Like, what is bigger than anything? You know what I'm saying?
I get you. I want Colt to jump off first.
Yeah, you said you had a lot to say about, because you did a video about Elder Scrolls recently, Colt. So
yeah, I did yesterday. I had one up about Elder Scrolls. There's a lot of stuff going on. If you're to believe, or your audience is to believe, that there is a reveal for the Obsidian Unreal Engine 5 full remake. Sorry, I do that all the time. Oblivion remake. If you're to believe that that's a reality or that's a 2025 thing, I could totally see at Xbox Showcase they show Oblivion remake, and then they fade out and say, and for the next adventure in Tamriel, and you see this Elder Scrolls 6 tease for a window, in the next year or two years or whatever they're going to do. I could totally see it. There are some crazy rumors from some dev that just left Bethesda and said, hey, I'm going to kind of give you guys an idea what's going on, and this will probably get deleted, but have at you. I'll start with this one. This will start up the discussion. Apparently, the shipbuilding that we saw in Starfield has been evolved up into ship pirate vessel building, where you build your own livable combat and traversal ship and go out on the high seas a la Assassin's Creed Black Flag and fight enemies on ship and customize this thing up to the nines like you do in Starfield. And I got to ask you guys, like, would you like that? Because some people hate the ship battle stuff in Assassin's Creed, and they just did it in Pirate Yakuza Hawaii.
I don't know. I don't know.
Or does it sound like fake as fudge?
I mean, I don't know much of like Elder Scrolls lore or where it's going to be located. When I think of Elder Scrolls, I do not think of ship combat or ship exploration or ship building. I could understand, like, hey, we built this technology for this thing in Starfield. Let's like not scrap it and let's use it for something else. So let's put it in Elder Scrolls and use that tech that we built for Starfield so we can get more use out of it to build a ship. I don't know. I didn't do any of the shipbuilding stuff in Starfield because I just wasn't interested in it whatsoever. I'm also not a very creative person.
Right. You also don't like to build in games whatsoever.
I hate building in games, so that idea immediately doesn't appeal to me whatsoever, like the idea of building my ship. So I'm not a fan of that idea, but I wouldn't really use. I mean, I wouldn't use it, but I definitely like. I don't know. I just don't know if I'm that interested in sailing around the seas in Elder Scrolls, to be honest with you. But
you're acting like it's the main gameplay mechanic.
No, I'm just saying, like, you wanted my opinion on it. I'm just asking you, but
I mean,
I got you.
Somebody in the chat says the space travel in Starfield didn't make the ship that important. You could just fast travel to other planets. Yeah, I mean, Brandon could, but I lived in my ship. I walked up to my ship. I walked around it. I walked into it. I talked to my companions in my ship. I flew around in my ship and took out others, and that was an amazing thing.
And for me, that kind
of
of
stuff
is,
can be what you take of it. Sure.
Yeah, I think that all that stuff to me is additive, as opposed to this is a core gameplay mechanic. I'll be shocked, Elder Scrolls, that's a core gameplay mechanic. Just one of those things that they probably want to, put in there. And let's be honest, for the modders and the creation community that they have, that stuff really satiates them. To your question with the whole 2027 joint, I'm gonna throw another wrinkle to y'all. Like,
all right, another wrinkle.
What about, we hear it, the next technological leap, right? From Xbox.
You mean AI?
I mean, we'll get into that, but we'll talk about MUSE soon. But I mean, like, just from a standpoint of, we know, I mean, obviously you guys have broken on both your channels as far as, Xbox signing off on hardware, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if, the lineup is so thick, we know what 2026 is potentially looking like, 2027 potentially, what if you say, hey, you throw this joint on next to the launch of a console? I mean, what if you hold it off a year? What say you to that? I mean, the timing could potentially align.
I mean, yeah, I think it's one of those things where if the timing lines up, then sure. But if the game needs more time to cook in the oven, then you give it more time. But I mean, I could see, it's like, oh, we're launching this new thing. A lot of people have questions about future Xbox hardware in general, which, XboxERA and a lot of the, the outlets that Asphil recently kind of were trying to get answers to. And it's like, you have this new hardware. Let's launch it with potentially one of the biggest franchises in gaming, period, Elder Scrolls. And it's like, that could do something. Because I think Jez reported, and I know, Colt, you did a video about this, but that the next hardware for Xbox, the console and the handheld, have been like fully approved and blah 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 blah. And my thought is that it would be coming out in 2027. I think people think in 2026. I think that's a little bit too early.
Yeah.
So I guess it all just depends. Like I would think Elder Scrolls would be a good game to kind of launch in companion with the system. It's interesting to think about, though.
I mean, it would gauge a lot of hardware interest.
Even though it's available on PlayStation,
even though
5
available
or 6.
everywhere.
Probably also available on Xbox Series and PS5 and everywhere else. As Xbox is, essentially, rip the Band-Aid off and, we're putting our games everywhere else. I don't know. I thought I'd bring up the Elder Scrolls thing because when it comes to Bethesda and which franchise I like better, I like Elder Scrolls better than I like Fallout.
Ooh,
and I love needling Colt because I always telling Colt, I always tell Maddie, and I always tell Jez, you ain't getting Fallout 5 to probably like 2031 or 2035 something because they took how long? It's like they did Fallout. When it was Fallout 3? 2009?
2008,
and then
2008. Fallout 4 was 2015. A Fallout 5 game would be a 6 to 8 year development cycle, and they're not going to work on it until they're completely done with Elder Scrolls.
In between Fallout 3 and
those are different days. So, like at this point, Bethesda, I mean, they were going through rough financial times before Xbox swooped them up.
And that's kind of why Xbox bought them, because they were going through those tough times.
Absolutely.
It's like they have these massive franchises, but they honestly can't afford, even under the Microsoft umbrella, to expand their studio large enough to take on a concurrent workforce of Fallout 5 while they work on Elder Scrolls 6, as much as we wish they would. And
there is this
Todd Howard
that
he won't let it go, right?
He won't. I mean, according to him, that's one of his babies. But there is this studio in house that just can't wait to do a Fallout game. Have we
talked about him today?
Have we talked about this? There's this studio that actually made arguably the greatest Fallout game, and they have consistently been on record that if they got the call, they would love to do another Fallout game. I mean, it is right in house. I mean, just
you know what, Cog? Here it is. I'm going to talk to next time you and I hang out with Todd Howard. We'll have a little chat with him.
You have to talk to God.
Little baby Todd Howard. We'll talk to him about it. But you
gotta give Obsidian some babysitting rights, man. Come on.
you gotta do it. They're good for it. Here's what you do. is you give the Creation Engine 2.0, that Starfield build, the way that Starfield looks, and say, hey, take this and make the next Fallout game Obsidian. Like, just make it, because just imagine how good Fallout would look with the graphics. And anybody who says Starfield doesn't have good visuals, they just watched it on their iPhone at low quality. Like, that game is so beautiful. There are barren landscapes for sure, but not when you make a Fallout game in that engine. That would look unbelievable. And Todd just needs to they published New Vegas. If you watch my channel, I've got a gigantic 3-foot metal poster I made for Fallout New Vegas. They would do an amazing job with it. And knowing what they did with Avowed, like, just let him, I'm going to email him. Dear Todd Howard at AOL.net. This is Colt Eastwood.
This is Colt Eastwood in my AI voice.
Yeah, and you got like this amazing cultural pop sensation, television series going on Amazon.
There you go.
Wow, this seems like a cross media, extravaganza for you if you could just time this up somehow, especially when they're going to Vegas.
They should have been desperately talking about what to do with Fallout, like their integration of the Fallout like wonderment that was going on when the show launched a year ago or whatever it was. They tried to get something last minute into Fallout 76. I talked to someone pretty high up at Xbox that was like, why are we not doing something about this moment? It was pretty rough. Like Xbox is very reactive when it comes to that instead of being proactive. And they need to be talking right now, because what is it, in a year, Rand, we'll see season 2 of Fallout?
2.
Yeah, I mean, they're filming it now. So
we'll see it like what, 2025 or 2026?
Yeah, we'll see it 2026. It'll come out in 2026.
Oh my gosh.
That's the thing I hate about modern.
You should be saying we need Fallout tomorrow. So they should be like commissioning Obsidian right now, saying, somebody said it in the chat, co-develop it, put a bunch of people from Bethesda Softworks and a major group of people in Obsidian and just co-develop it.
Well, let's workshop that. Who in Obsidian's going to run it? Because you have the people working hard on Outer Worlds 2, which comes out at the end of the year. You have the people the team that just finished Avowed, which, they're working on bug fixes and stuff, and who knows if they're doing DLC and expansions. I think the Grounded team is working on Grounded 2. I don't know what Josh Scheuer and his team are doing.
That's the name I was going to go for.
Yeah, but I mean, but even still, Josh Scheuer and his Pentiment team were like 10 people. 10 people ain't making no Fallout New Vegas 2 or whatever. So I'm saying,
was a small
project. Hey, Chris Avallone and Josh Sawyer were the magic behind Fallout New Vegas. You just need Josh Sawyer and whoever he wants to work with.
My point is, like, who else at Obsidian, if they're doing the grunt work? Fergus. So Fergus himself would be doing it, and nobody else.
Look, Fergus said he put it out.
I know,
there.
but
when the CEO puts it out there.
But I'm just saying,
I don't know how this works, Rand. Let me ask you this.
They're still working on Outer Worlds 2. They're working on, we think, Grounded 2. Where are you going to get the bodies to make a Fallout game at Obsidian right now?
Okay, hold on.
That's my point.
Well, how about this? I don't know how this works, and this is why I'll ask both of you. You probably know business way better than I do. Fallout is a major draw. It is a money-making
and the
franchise.
TV show is incredible. I think it was my favorite TV show from last year.
So what about this? Can Xbox, Microsoft, Bethesda, and Obsidian ask for a big investment in the next Fallout spin-off game and just say, hey, we need to bring studios together. We need to partner with other studios to help Obsidian and Bethesda Softworks make this happen, or we need to increase the size of our studio to make this happen. And we're good for it because this is a big franchise. Like, this is the investment ask we're looking for. I think if any franchise is allowed to say, hey, we need to get bigger and we need to go faster and better, I think that they could do it by saying, look, this is the investment.
I mean, I agree with you.
It's Fallout 5.
I do think 100%. It's a missed opportunity that there is nothing Fallout related that we know of in the pipeline. For the TV show, they did have the remaster for Fallout 4 or whatever, but I think
obviously we're all ignoring 76 because we
don't. 76, but I mean, 76 does well. It was a game they stuck with, but I'm talking about like a brand new game in that universe, pairing it up with the TV. right? Because maybe they didn't think the TV show would be as big as it was, and to be honest with you, I think all of us here in the panel and most people in the chat were probably like, a Fallout TV show on Prime? Yeah, that's gonna suck, right?
Yeah, it kind of was.
Valid. Hindsight 2020.
And then you see the
amazing.
trailer, and you're like, actually, this could be good. And then you watch the show, and it's like, oh my god, this is amazing. And it was like the second biggest Prime show of all time. And then you're thinking like, oh man, this is a missed opportunity because you don't have anything in development, and we all know how long games take to make these days. Right. So it's kind of like, okay, well, let's fast track something, but Bethesda's on Elder Scrolls 6 and doing Starfield stuff, so they can't get to it. Obsidian's doing their own stuff that they were working on at the time, so it's like, that's going to be rough. I mean, do you then go hire, find a studio elsewhere to do it? I do think that's something that needs to be done, considering how big of a franchise it is. Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, who it would be and what the timeline is.
It's got to be co-development, man, on some level, and probably bring another team in, because the key is going to be, look, Josh getting up a team together who was, one of the originals on New Vegas. And the issue is going to be, based on every interview we've seen with God Howard, his control over said franchise. We know that's his baby. But if Phil could get them in a room and collectively and say, hey, you guys have like literally the most successful Amazon show. What was it, like 65 million in its first 16 days? Like, this is unprecedented. So this is something that we could cash in on. And obviously, it's going to be multi-plat, so it's not like no one's going to miss out to get the most revenue. And put these guys together and just co-develop. I mean, it can be done, but the key is going to be the respect they have for Todd, and Todd kind of relinquishing that. Because, look, I'm looking at your clip right now. Like, as much as we love Machine Games, don't get me wrong, Todd Howard's fingerprints were all over Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You could feel the love and passion he has.
And the idol he stole.
And the idol he stole. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, now you've got to get this out. To me, Todd is the key. If he can, kind of leverage here and be a little creative with at least New Vegas. If you want to just do a New Vegas one, like, it's right there for you guys, man. It's up to him. And we do know he still wants to make games. He's not out of games, kind of thing. But I'm calling Obsidian. I'm calling Josh. I'm calling Furkers. I'm calling these guys up and say, bro.
Call him right now. Bro, we're on the show.
Exactly. This is gonna print money itself, man. This is easy money. Like, do you
think all of them know that except Todd at this point? Like, because it seems like,
I'm gonna be honest. I think it's Todd.
You know who else you bring in that we forgot? You bring in Tim.
Tim Dog? You bring in Tim
Not
Dog?
Tim Dog.
You get Tim Dog. There we go.
Okay.
You bring in I'm blanking on his name. The one that used to work for Obsidian and Interplay and
Tim, was it Kane you talking about?
Tim Kane, yeah.
Yeah.
And he has his own YouTube channel. He talks about that many times they tried to commission to get Fallout to make a spinoff. So he's another like brainchild. Tim Kane. Yes. Thank you so much. Solithia said it as well. Yeah.
Well, okay.
Tim Dog.
Before we move on from this, I do want to get a quick yes or no. Okay.
What's up?
Will Elder Scrolls 6 be at this year's Xbox June showcase? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, you got a no from COG. Colt, what do you think? Yes or no? Would be at this year's showcase?
Well, I'm with the chat that said I don't want another teaser. We already got one 7 years ago.
Yeah, 7 years ago, sure. But I think it would be more than a teaser.
I don't think it's impossible for someone to say, we just watched a trailer for a game and it's coming out in 2 years. We get that all the time. Maybe if it's an in-engine trailer, then I'd say yes, we get something that shows Elder Scrolls is like in the works.
Even if it's 2028, we are getting closer and closer to Elder Scrolls being a thing, right? So,
yeah, and if it was 2027. In mid-2025, you absolutely could show an in-engine trailer, even if it doesn't show a lot of gameplay, and say, here's Elder Scrolls 6, here's where it's located, here's what it looks like, that's all you get, and then bounce. And people will be like, oh my gosh.
So what was your thing, a yes or no?
Mine's a yes.
Okay, we got a yes and a no.
What about you, Rand? We have to interview you on the show.
What about your prediction?
This is our show now.
Screw it, I'll go yes too.
Oh,
I'll go yes too. I'll go
Positive
yes.
Rand.
You
They're
know,
holding out on
as
me.
Sarah Bond's going to come
Negative
out there
cog.
and say something, she's like, and we got one more thing. And then it's going to pop up, and it's going to be, say, Bethesda Presents, and then it's going to be a trailer for Elder Scrolls 6. And people are going to be like, oh, my God. But yeah.
That'd be
Oh,
amazing.
That'd be amazing. We got Wagerman with the 10. Hey, gents. 3 of our community's best today. With Tony Hawk 3 and 4 likely announcements soon, how crazy is the Xbox lineup? I wish they'd expand their Game Pass marketing. The cost pays off in 1 to 2 months. Yeah, I mean, people talk about their marketing all the time because a lot of people think they don't do enough or they don't let people know what Game Pass is. And, you know, we had that conversation about Avowed in the marketing, and then suddenly, like, what was it?
Oh, bro.
2 weeks before...
Greeny been popping off.
And Greenberg's like, all right, gotta do my job, gotta retweet the stuff on Twitter. Let's go, you know, like, which is a joke.
I'm seeing bridges and signs.
We got Times Square, we got bridges, we got all these different marketing things for Avowed. That's what Xbox seems to do for release like this. I think you'll see them do bigger things for like Doom, right? Because Doom is a massive franchise. But yeah, the Tony Hawk thing, right?
Let's go.
Now, we had talked previously, you know, maybe not necessarily like in the show, but me and you, when we talk about how Xbox's year is shaping up, where it's like they might put out 10 games this year. It's certainly in the realm of possibility when you consider the stuff that's already locked in for the beginning of the year, right? You have Avowed, you have South of Midnight, which all of us here played, right? We all played South of Midnight.
Yeah.
And you actually went to the event, Cog, so...
Yes.
And we're all excited for it, right? So you got South to Midnight, Avowed, we got Doom in May, and so it's like, okay, that's a pretty strong start. End of the year, you're looking at Outer Worlds 2, Fable, Ninja Gaiden 4, which was revealed at the latest Developer Direct, a new Call of Duty game, so already... Like, yeah, you know, something could slip. You never know. Like, Fable could get delayed, or Outer Worlds 2 could get delayed. Grand Theft Auto 6 could make its impact felt at some point, and the game might shift for that. Game development is crazy. But then there's these other games, like the rumored Oblivion remake, which, you know, Nate DeHade says is real, and it's coming out in June, and he thinks it's going to be revealed during the, later in March. You know, there's always the special Nick rumor about the Gears collection, you know, maybe this year. But nobody was talking about Tony Hawk. And then suddenly, Xstasis came out and said, hey, Tony Hawk 3 and 4 remaster is real, and it's going to be a shadow drop during the Xbox June showcase.
Ooh.
And then, like, a day later, within Call of Duty Black Ops 6, there was, like, an ad for, or, like, a signage in the game that had the Tony Hawk logo, and then it said 03 period 04 period 2025. So some sort of Tony Hawk announcement. And then today they just straight up said it. If you go to TonyHawk.com or whatever website is, I saw Wario post it, and you click on it, it's the website for Tony Hawk 1 and 2. Literally has a countdown for March 4th, 2025, which is funny because it's like March 4th, 3-4, and this is Tony Hawk 3 and 4. So there's just a game that nobody was really even talking about is now probably going to release sometime this year, and that's just another game added to the pile. One of the reasons why people didn't think this was happening, even though I think both me and Special Nick said we heard it was, is because they shut down the studio, or the studio who made this got absorbed into, I think, Blizzard, the original developers of the Tony Hawk remaster, 1 and 2. I forget their names off the top of my head, but I do know that they were like absorbed into Blizzard. So people were like, well, we're not going to get 3 and 4. How sad is that? But if you look at the countdown page, you know what developer is right there listed at the very bottom next to Activision?
Who that?
Iron Galaxy.
Ooh.
So it looks like Iron Galaxy is making this. So what do you think about Xbox adding another game to the lineup this year? And are you interested at all in Tony Hawk 3 and 4, Cog?
Ooh, it's a big one. It's a big one. Now, confession, I've never really played a Tony Hawk game. So this is going to be big for me. But here's the deal. Like, it's time. You know, a lot of people have been in my DMs frustrated, like, yo, Cog, what is going on with the ABK games? Like, what's up, man? I get it. We got COD. What's up? And all I think I try to tell people is from a technical standpoint, integrating two companies is way more complicated than a lot of people think. It's not just, yo, flip the switch, hit a button in the back of the database, switch everything to Game Pass, and call it. It doesn't work like that. And remember, ABK is so big. From what I hear, there's a lot of things from a technical standpoint and getting them up to standard, which is the Microsoft standard from a security standpoint. There's a lot involved with that. And that's why it's way more deeper and complex than just guys are lazy and they need to get on it, kind of thing. So to me, the timing lines up. I think it's a perfect shadow drop. Obviously, see the Call of Duty information and as far as like the leaks and the hints and stuff like that. I think we start to see the fruits of it. This is huge. I mean, obviously, I don't have the history with the franchise, but I know the relevance. I know the importance of it. And I'm telling y'all right now, like that, Tony Hawk being resuscitated in that way, that's definitely one of those things that you're going to get the crowd going crazy. To see that franchise come back on any level is going to be huge. So start with remasters, get everybody hyped up, and then, the playbook.
So you're saying you think eventually they're going to make a brand new Tony Hawk?
I mean, it's possible. It's possible because what I feel is this. I feel like you gotta reintroduce something that has been missed, right? And you gotta gauge interest. So it's like, okay, we bring the remasters. If this goes crazy, right? Okay, these guys really do want one. Okay, then we could have that discussion about a potential, new one kind of thing. So that's where I'm at with it. But it'll be a huge announcement. I mean, I'm going to defer to you guys because obviously you guys are the Tony Hawk guys. So
I mean, are you sure about that? Because we could ask Cold Eastwood and he probably is like, I don't even know who Tony Hawk is.
Okay. I mean, I played 1 and 2 on my PlayStation 1 back in the late 90s, and I had like Tony Hawk Underground on the Xbox original, and then I played a bunch of the remaster in 2019. I was going to cover this in my weekly games video last night, and then I thought, I don't have any footage. I don't want to find it. And I didn't know what people would have to say about a possible remaster. I know that I did have to say that since the first 1 and 2 remaster was so successful and they did Vicarious Visions is such an amazing job on that port, that 3 and 4 is going to be another big hit. When COG says maybe they're gearing up to make a new one, for the past 10, 15 years, making a new Tony Hawk game was like just a recipe for disaster. I've watched for so long as they try to keep going with Tony Hawk or revitalize it, and it just flounders so bad. Do you remember when they did the motion board that you could get so you could play the game with the motion board in your living room, and people are like, come on, this isn't what we want.
It's one of those things is like where people have such nostalgia for like 1 and 2 and 3, and it's like when you kept on making these games, it was never as good as those originals, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you keep on making this new stuff, but the new stuff isn't good. So yeah, and the remaster, which I think you said 2019, but I think that came out in actually 2021. I think it sold pretty damn well, and people were really excited about that. So it's interesting that this is just basically going to be an announcement. Like they're not even waiting for the showcase, maybe to show it off. It's just a random day in March. Just hey, March 4th, guess what? We got an announcement here. We're going to see something from Tony Hawk, and whenever that's going to be released. That's how like they have so much shit that they're just some random day. Same thing potentially for the Oblivion thing. Like just a random day, whatever. Just announced just another game.
You think it's possible Oblivion gets announced like on a random day and not like part of Showcase?
Well, I remember when I did the podcast with Nate, when he said that it's real and it's coming in June, he theorized that Oblivion they were going to have a live stream on like the anniversary of the release, and being like some celebration for the anniversary release, and then here's the trailer, and then here's when the game's launching. If that's what they're gonna do, I don't know. We'll see, but I don't know. I like Colt Cog. I only really played Tony Hawk 1 and 2 back in the day, and I didn't play the remaster. I'm not much of a skater dude, skater bro.
Skater bro.
I think I played some of them on the 360, maybe like I don't know how many Tony Hawk games were on the 360, like new ones. I think I might have played 1 or 2 of them. I never played like the skate games from EA, because there was a point in time where everybody was making skateboard games, and then suddenly nobody was making skateboard games. So I don't. It's not something that super excites me in any way. I'm not going to be like, yeah, I need to play 3 and 4, but I know, like you, that there are people that love this franchise.
Yeah, bro.
And were disappointed when 1 and 2 did really well, and then Vicarious Visions, or whoever the developer was absorbed in the Blizzard, and they thought the dream was over. Because it was like, oh, we're going to get 3 and 4, and then it was like, actually, you're not. They're like, damn you, Bobby Kotick. And, so here we are, though, and it's like, okay, Xbox, they're back. Maybe we can do... And I think one of the first I don't know, when Phil first... the ABK stuff, when he first talked about it, was Tony Hawk a franchise he talked about right away, or was... I don't know if it was, but I think it was like Guitar Hero. He always mentioned Guitar Hero, and he mentioned stuff like Hexen, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know if he mentioned anything about Tony Hawk. But clearly they see some value in the franchise, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see when the game releases. I do think it's funny that Xtasis put it out there that there's going to be a shadow drop, and then the next day it was like, actually, it's going to be an announcement in March. It's like, ooh, okay, well, you can't always get everything right, I suppose, right?
Yeah, man.
Well, when he does, he can get his flowers.
Yeah.
And he does.
So, what else we got here? We got the Tony Hawk stuff. We have a super chat here from Meat Puppet, who says, I would like co-op and Avowed. Will they add it? I don't think it'll be added as DLC. I don't think so. I think it was in there in the early stages, and they completely shifted focus, and it was like, yeah, we need to drop co-op. Let's see. We have Sith Lord, member for 25 months. The Xbox 3. Is this why Chicago is heating up? Because this group is fire. Cog and Colt, thanks for saving Xbox 2 today. You guys are the best.
Salute. Had to hold Jez down, man. For sure.
Yeah, otherwise the show probably wouldn't have happened. We got
Jez is sitting in his hotel in Hawaii, looking out the window, listening to the show, like with that pensive look on his face.
Probably playing Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
It was funny. Somebody tweeted when I was like, "Oh, we got Cog and Colt coming on," and somebody tweeted, "It's like, yes, somebody on the podcast other than Rand who will actually finish games," and I'm like, "Oh,
don't do that to the homie.
Damn.
Hey, don't do that to the homie."
Didn't Jez finish like 9 Final Fantasy games last week?
But those were like 5 hours long, you know what I mean? Like,
okay.
But yeah, I mean, Jez is like, I don't got a lot of time, and he does finish the games he reviews. But, that is a constant joke. And I'm just like, come on, Jez, I mean, hey, Lord Cognito didn't believe I was going to finish Metaphor.
I'll give you credit, bro.
So,
I give you credit. I didn't think you would do it. I was like, all right. Very impressed with you on that.
I just got to get into Yakuza, which, Cole, how's Yakuza Like a Pirate going for you?
Oh, it's got such cool combat, and then you do the ship thing, and it's like a really super arcadey Black Flag with your machine guns and stuff on your... You can like grab an RPG and stand on the deck and shoot the boats, but the dialogue and styling is just so goofy. I just couldn't do it anymore. It's like this little boy with a pet tiger going, "I'm gonna live with you, mister," and you're a drunk like pirate who like was washed up on shore. Not a pirate, but you're a mafia member. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it got okay scores, but I haven't finished it.
To Like a Dragon? This is your first?
This is his very first one. He decided for whatever reason the pirate game was going to be his
not
first.
Like this, Cole.
Yeah, I guess it's my first introduction to Like a Dragon, but I've tried like 3 or 4 of the Yakuza games for the first couple hours. I'm like, I just don't vibe with the style. It's just way different for me.
They got my boy off starting bad. They ain't even get him right. Oh man, they give the proper intro. Damn. I hate that that's your first like one. Like that's what you start with. That's
I mean, I did play Like a Dragon for like an hour when it came out, and I was running around the city, and I'm like, I just don't really get this. And I'm really impatient sometimes with certain styles of games. And I hate that because we live in a community that
we
like
live in a society.
we live in a society where if you don't like something, you yell it from the rafters. You tell everyone to stop enjoying what they like.
True that.
And you just won't hear me talk about Pokemon or
I'm the same way.
Or just certain major popular franchises that everybody likes that I just don't care for. Because if I don't like something, I don't walk up to somebody in a restaurant and knock the food off their table and say, "What are you eating? Why are you eating that trash?" Like, that's not real cuisine.
Yo,
if somebody says, "Man, I love," like our good friend Hargeet Chani, like he loves the Yakuza franchise to death, and I understand he loves it because they're amazing games for him. You'll never see me argue with them because that's just what dumb people do, I guess.
Well, I'm the same with you. I'm not into like stealing people's joy. Like if I see someone put a clip up and they having fun, like Rand knows I don't like Souls games. Like I don't like. I see guys putting up Elden Ring, whatever. That's like me jumping on somebody's Elden Ring. That's trash. Why are you even? You know, what I'm saying? Like bro, like let someone enjoy, have their fun, man. Like I'm not into that like stealing people's joy if they're having a good time. Now, if someone asks your opinion, that's different.
Yeah, it's been like that with Avowed. Like everyone's talking about how amazing it is. I have a really close friend who's like, I just can't believe people are saying they're blown away. How can you be blown away by this game? I'm like, but I'm one of your best friends. I'm telling you, the game is really, really enjoyable. And I was expecting it to be good, but I didn't expect to enjoy it that much. And I put 100 hours into it. They're like, well, that's mid.
Well, one thing about me, no man can tell me how my food tastes. So I really don't care what nobody talk about. If I'm having fun, I'm
not unless they're in my mouth.
Exactly. Pause. We're gonna pause you on that one.
Yeah.
That was wild funny. That was wild crazy.
Jesse James says that spaghetti is full third party. Mid. Yeah, just in case you guys need to know, I don't really care for spaghetti. That's a bummer when somebody's like, "We're having spaghetti."
Spaghetti's
like,
okay. It was always one of those things when you would come home from school and it's like you ask mom like, "What's for dinner?" and she's like, "Spaghetti." You'd be like, you weren't upset, but you also weren't excited. And it's like, well, at least we're gonna have garlic bread. I don't know what it is.
It's like so boring to me.
Fine. I always hated coming home and it's like, "What's for dinner?" and she'd be like, "Pork chops." I'd be like, "Oh God," or like meatloaf.
That sounds amazing.
Her pork chops weren't any. No, they were hard as rocks, and you break your teeth on them half the time. Or like, oh, what about meatloaf? And it's just like meatloaf. It's like
Rand had a tortured childhood when it came to pork chops and meatloaf.
I'm lucky that I actually had a childhood where like both my parents are divorced now, but at the time like both my parents were home and my dad worked and my mom didn't, but so my mom would cook. And there'd be great nights. Like, you'd come home like, what's for dinner tonight? Chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese. It's like, oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
But there would be certain meals that she would make and just be like, no, classic. I don't know if I want to come out of my room to eat this.
But I just have an aversion to spaghetti. And when we make it once in a while, we'll make it baked. We'll put it in a casserole dish and cover it with cheese and bake it. So it kind of comes out like it makes it a little more enjoyable to eat. I don't know. I just went through a phase in my life where people were feeding me spaghetti like crazy, and I just got tired of it. So,
spaghetti. We have
Rand's mom's catching strays.
Yep.
I'm just saying. I mean, but I was like, I'm sure that's true for any kid growing up. I'm sure there's dinners they liked and dinners they didn't like, right? Mm-hmm. I remember one time.
Yeah, write in the chat what your mom made that you're like, oh, not this.
Yeah, not this. But spaghetti was like in the mid. It was like, okay, I'm not upset about it, but like, let me get that garlic bread though, at least. You know what I mean? Like,
of course.
Jules says, come on, start with the Yakuza 0 cult. Come on.
Yeah.
With the super chat. And that is another game. Now I got an Atlas game off my list, Cog.
Yeah.
The next franchise, I am looking at like a Dragon Yakuza.
Let's go. Let's get that Ichiban, baby. Let's go.
I don't know when it'll happen, but that is the next one. I'm kind of like, all right. Now that I got an Atlas game, and I'm positive I am not going to play Persona 5 this year because I'm like, I did my metaphor. I got like 115 hours in it. Like, it's going to be Yakuza next.
Let's go.
Amish AI says in the super chat, listen 50% Xbox 2 plus Max co-host plus the best 25% of ILP.
Oh, dang. I love that.
25. I like that. That's good.
That's good.
That's Amish. That's the
Teddy P says, Lord Squats, why hiding behind the camera? Ooh-wee.
You know, I gotta, when you're in Rome, you do what the Romans do. I gotta
That's
respect Rand. I'm in Rand's house. I gotta be respectful.
Cog and I didn't do our hair today, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, clearly I didn't do mine.
yes. And we have a $20 super chat from Face23BKNY. And this one's directed at Colt.
Ooh.
At Colt.
Ooh.
When will Sony do day and date with all their games? I won't say never, but Sony does not have to do day and date with all their games like Xbox. They are not in the same position. Microsoft wants their return on investment ASAP and more. So, Colt, this was directed to you from one and only Face23.
Well, yeah, I mean, he already answered his own question. They are in the same boat, and PlayStation wants their return on investment immediately. They aren't in the same boat as far as needing to put their games on Xbox because Xbox is the third place console platform. So there's no reason to put them on there. But I can also make the argument that PlayStation knows that they no longer have to suffocate their console market competitor. And you could even make the argument that they could put their games on Xbox and still continue to outsell the Xbox console, but they won't. As far as when they'll go to PC, I think they do it before the end of this console generation. I don't think they use the console generation as a drawing line of when they should or shouldn't. But I have a gentleman's bet with Mag, my co-host. I think that they'll go day and date with a single-player first-party game before the end of the generation. Because
so when you say single-party, it has to be a first-party owned studio because you have something like Lost Soulside, which is they're publishing it, but it's also releasing on PC day one.
I mean, it's kind of asinine to say PlayStation will never go day and date when the majority of their releases are going to PC, and some of them are going day and date. Most of them are going day and date because they've had so many games that go under that umbrella.
Intergalactic.
Well, that's the funny thing. They're like well, they're not going to do it with these 4 games out of 10. It's like, so they're the PlayStation guys are really hanging on to. They're not going to do it with the Intergalactic Wolverine or Death Stranding 2. Even if Death Stranding 2 went day and date in PC, I don't consider that part of what Face is talking about because PlayStation is really adamant about their single player games from their studios, like Insomniac and I thought it was kind of funny that Soros is, am I saying that name right? From Housemarque?
Yeah, the Housemarque. Soros, yeah.
Like that Returnal did not sell very well, but thankfully it was not as expensive to make, so they probably turned a profit fairly early on that game, but it didn't have high sales numbers. That's a great game to put on PC. It did really well on PC. And if PlayStation is telling their studios, look, we need to hold off, this is just the thing we're doing, they're leaving money on the table. So I think they'll go to PC by the end of the generation. But it's just the holdout is kind of funny at this point. It's like, why? But we also have a pretty big news topic today that hardware is down for everybody. And hardware is also, like Phil's talk with XboxERA was really great, where he said, it used to be about building the console, but now the games are the most important thing. Because PlayStation is proven right now that they don't have to sell all the consoles as long as their games are doing great and they're selling other people's games, they can do amazing. So big changes coming.
Yeah, because they released MPD or Sakana today.
Okay.
And like one of the big takeaways was the resurgence of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which I think went all the way up to number 3 because it did really well on PC.
The PC release.
On Steam, right?
Right.
Which, by the way, like Nate the Hate says, those games are coming to Xbox and Switch too. So I think he said recently Final Fantasy 16's coming this year. He said expects an announcement sometime in spring, and that Final Fantasy VII remake's coming end of this year, and that Rebirth would be coming to Xbox and like Switch 2 next year. But of course, people are like, "Oh yeah, right." I don't know. There's a lot of people very defensive about this idea of the Final Fantasy games going multi-platform. I don't know why, but that's what he said. But yeah, like one of the other notes here was January 2025 video game hardware sales fell 45% year over year in the U.S. And it's like, whoa, okay. It's worth noting that January 2025's data accounts for 4 weeks, while January 2024 was 5 weeks. But, the drop was pretty substantial. And he said that Switch, which does have its successor coming soon, fell 53% year over year. Xbox fell 50% year over year. PlayStation 5 dropped 38%
Really?
year over year. So even, and PlayStation just had a really great quarter last quarter where they shipped like 9 million PlayStations. But I mean, January is always it's a tough time for creators because nothing really going on, and the ad rates are super low because advertisers basically are like, yeah, we're not advertising stuff anymore. Like, so everything falls, and usually there's not really a big game in January most of the time. So console sales kind of like, people are kind of like, well, we spend all of our money for the holidays, we need to kind of conserve, so we're not going to spend big money yet. So that's kind of what's going on. But to Face's point about the PC stuff, is there were some choice quotes from Yoshida recently. He's been doing the rounds. He was on Greg's show. He was on Colin's show.
Yeah.
And he even talked about how PC is like free money for them. how putting games on PC is just like printing money for PlayStation. That it's like, it just
That's
like,
what I was just getting
the porting costs are so low. It's like, why wouldn't you do it? But he also talked about the idea of, he basically got pushed out of PlayStation.
Yeah.
Jim Ryan came in, took over, and was like, "You're the head of indies now." And it was like, "Well, can I do something else?" Like, nope. It's either you're the head of indies or you're out of the company. It's like, ooh, because I almost get a sense, and I don't follow like PlayStation news that closely, but the way Yoshida talks about PlayStation, it almost feels like he's got a grudge to bear in a way. Maybe not against like the overall company, but against like certain people within the company that made the decisions.
Yeah.
Because he's been going on talking about some stuff about how which isn't really like new, but From Software didn't want to work with Sony again after like Demon Souls because of how they were treated badly. So they took their Dark Souls franchise to work with Bandai Namco. Yeah, is there anything from the Yoshida stuff that really caught your attention, Cog, at all?
Yeah, man. I mean, I got to catch up with Colin's interview, just to see what's going on with the full extent of it. But obviously, I've seen some excerpts that's going around, and it's sad to read for me. The reason why I fell in love, my favorite PlayStation is PlayStation 1. And the reason why I fell in love with it was just the titles that they had, how aggressive Sony was, and how they were kind of staking their claim in the games industry. And shit is a huge part of that. I mean, if you're talking like the Ken Katarugi days, the father of PlayStation days, and I loved that console. And he is literally core DNA Sony to me. And to see and to hear, the aggressive push, and now what we all suspected, we all felt at the time his silence was a bit weird. And then when, he was put into an indie role, not saying that he couldn't do that, but someone of that stature, it did feel. And I remember the rumors. I got to give King his flowers. King was like, yeah, man, that's a demotion. They tried to get him out the building. He called it. And I kind of felt like it just seemed off. And now it's funny, obviously, when someone is now removed from from a company, they could speak freely. And you're starting to see it. He's starting to talk about it. We talked about the overcommitment to the live service push, which obviously puts their first party in tremendous stress right now in terms of like a lot of those games you might not get to, the next PlayStation, right? And then now we talk about this with the, being moved over into indies and stuff like that. It's really sad to me. He deserved better. He has enough cachet and resume in that building to not be handled that way. And now I'm wondering if now there's a lot of course correction with Hiroki Totoki now. And now, let's be honest, Herman Hulst was soft demoted. I've never seen a situation where there's co-CEOs, brother. So once that happened, and now the other gentleman and is now the other, the acting CEO, and now Herman Hulst gets pushed into almost like a Matt Booty role, which is, okay, you're still doing PlayStation Studios, you're just handling that now, but not higher decisions. And then obviously you look at a situation like Concord, right? And I know the talk was, oh, well, Yoshida greenlit that or whatever. But it's one thing where something can be announced in the early stages, and then another thing for the other parts of the corporate entity, like Herman and these guys saying, hey, this is going to be our Star Wars. We're going to be in this for 15 years.
It's like, well, he greenlit it. It's like, yeah, but the other people kept it going and actually let it go and had all these expectations and stuff. Like, because games get canceled all the time, right? Especially if you're PlayStation lately. You get a lot of games canceled. And I'm sure Xbox
Rand!
Well, it was true. I mean, it's like they've had like 10 games canceled recently. Yeah. And I'm sure, I mean, look, Xbox has been on the forefront of canceling games. I mean, hell, they fucking showed Scalebound at 2 E3s and then canceled the game, right? I mean, there's cancellations everywhere in the industry. So it's like,
Yeah, I think the difference though is I've never seen what was it 10 to 12 live service games. Like that was serious overcommitment. Like if you want to talk about mismanagement and gross mismanagement, like it's one thing to say, hey, we need one of those, right? Because you see a Marvel Rivals or you see, Fortnite and you're like, hey, we got to have one of those first party. But to say 12 and to take dedicated talent that is like Bend and what was the other company that's used to making specific type
Blue
games?
Point.
Blue Point.
Putting them on a God of War live service game, which is like crazy.
That is insane. When you take almost half of your first party studios and then overcommit them to this potential, you're trying to catch a wave, you're trying to catch a movement, and that's what got them in trouble. So I think, unfortunately for Shu, he got caught in the crossfire of that, and it was kind of a, get down and lay down. You're going to have to capitulate to what's going on here, otherwise you're going to do indie or you're not going to be here anymore, and it's unfortunate. But now you see he's kind of speaking out, now that he's free, from, everything outside of the umbrella.
Yeah. Colt, do you have anything that from the Yoshida stuff that because that sticks out to you? He did say that there wasn't a mandate for PlayStation live service stuff, but that they knew the company was spending a lot of money on it, so a lot of studios would pitch things along those lines so their projects would get picked up. Is there anything that interested you from any of the Yoshida interview stuff that's come out recently?
I mean, it's interesting that those studios who are tried and true at PlayStation would have to pitch like that. You'd think that they would be, let them do their thing.
Well, I mean, I think that's just kind of how it currently is. I mean, just because you're a studio there and you pitch something, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo might be like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I know. I just from the offset, like just from the outside looking at PlayStation Studios, like it just shocks me that Bend was told no on Days Gone 2 and Days Gone 1 was criminally underrated. But I don't know. Some of the stuff that I got from Shuhei's comments was that there has been major turmoil rumbling through PlayStation's business model where they were banging on all cylinders midway through the PS4 generation, and then they came in 2020 and tried to kind of give us the greatest hits of the PS4, and that kind of petered out. And to hear them pivot to live service, and none of the things that work are working now. And Sean Layden has said the same things that Shuhei is saying, that you're never guaranteed to have the same success every generation. That if I watch video games grow over the past 40 years like I have, everybody takes turn having their moment in the spotlight, and Xbox kind of had theirs for a little bit. They had it during the 360, and PlayStation is having some tough times even though they're doing really well. So one of the things I got from Shuhei is that it's not working. Their current business model is not working. They're making most of their money off of other people's games. Big major publishers don't want to put games just on PlayStation anymore. Right. And the push to PC needs to happen sooner than later. I don't understand why we still get these sound bites from PlayStation leadership saying, we're gonna wait, we're gonna coddle the console fans and give them their special treatment first, and then we'll go to PC. When Hiroki Totoki's saying we need to be more multi-platform, we need to expand our games and franchises need to survive, and the way to make them survive is look at Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 sold really well. Once it came to PC, granted the port was awful. Once it comes to PC, like that could have been a juggernaut. Like it took them a while to turn a profit on Spider-Man 2. If they would have released on PC day and date, as well as PS5, that game would have been huge out the gate. And for PlayStation, Shuhei is just kind of trying to give people an understanding that this is what they should be doing, but they're not doing it. And he was told to. I don't know if we didn't really cover it about how he was asked, but Jim Ryan told him, get out or go work on the Indies thing. And he kind of quietly did that. And people told us we were lying when we said he was demoted.
Yep.
I don't say this to say, this is my gotcha moment. The PlayStation's not perfect. I'm saying this because the whole entire industry, especially the Western side of the planet, is really, really struggling. And it's gone so far as to even affect PlayStation, who has had a phenomenal 40 years or 35 years in the industry. So that's what I get from Shu's comments.
One of the things that he said that I was like, really? You didn't think of this? Was he's like, I played The Last of Us Online and it was amazing or great. And then he said, like, Naughty Dog sat down with Bungie and Bungie told him, like, this is what you're going to need to do to essentially, support this live service game. And they were just like, what? Like, we don't want to turn the whole studio into basically just making this one thing. So they made the decision to, like, move on from it. And he's like, or else they wouldn't have made Intergalactic. I'm just like, did they not know the amount of resources and everything needed to support a live service game? I mean, it's not like the examples aren't there in front of them, from Fortnite to the Call of Duty stuff. Like, to think that, like, we can just make this game, release it, and then, I don't know, do some token support and then move on is sort of foolish thinking. And, now I saw, like, when I saw that, I was like, wow, man, people didn't really, like, there must have been a problem with certain management thinking that they could make this game and then it somehow being like, because I don't know, like, Last of Us Online thing sounds like a sure bet. Like, out of all their, like, live service stuff, that was, like, one that I thought, like, yeah, this is going to be, that'll be massive. And it was just,
I even thought, I'm sorry,
go ahead, you finish.
No, I'm just going to interject really quickly. Not only that, I actually thought the Spider-Man one in that universe could have had at least potential. So I was shocked that, both of those got shut down as well. I agree with you. I thought at very minimum, because we did know the first game had Last of Us had a multiplayer component, right? So you think, hey, you add on or whatever. And look, I know I'm a Bungie guy, but it is interesting to me that, they're looking at the tail of it, and I get that part, but to me, I feel that for name recognition alone, and that there was a proof of concept for a first multiplayer game that at least could have been solid at something, and that was surprising that those two that I felt had a chance to be successful were shut down.
Yeah. See, we got a couple super chats here. We got make it simple with the $4.99. I want to stir up the pot. Xbox should acquire Koei Tecmo. That's definitely stirring the pot, talking about acquisitions. Hey, Cog, I don't know if you saw this, but
what's up?
The CEO or whoever's in charge of the CMA pretty much said, I don't know if we'd go about blocking the ABK Xbox merger
really?
Like we did. Yeah, suddenly it's like,
I
don't know if we do the same
Lord acquisition
thing.
Started.
We don't know if we'd go about it the same way. And it's just like, oh my God, really?
I remember the talk that this would be devastating to the consolidation, would be awful for the industry, and how everyone would suffer.
Hold on, but before we dive into that, I'm just going to drop this in here.
Let's go.
This morning, there was a report that PlayStation is being sued for only allowing their games to be purchased in one location on their PSN store and having their prices too high. And this has been multiple lawsuits that have been leveled against PlayStation that they've been able to throw out. But I thought this whole idea was to keep from lessening competition. Now that Xbox has almost stepped out of the console market as far as competing, PlayStation's being sued for doing the same thing that the CMA and the regulatory bodies were trying to stop Xbox from doing, even though, as I rant like crazy, if I was on camera, it'd be even more fun. Even though Xbox had their games available on multiple devices, like you could play an Xbox game everywhere and anywhere but a PlayStation back at the time of the regulatory fight. So, let's dive into this one, Randall Thor 19 and Cog.
Well, I mean, it's just interesting to think about the ABK acquisition and how long it took to go and the fight and how basically like the FTC was almost like protecting PlayStation in a way. They were worried about all that stuff, and they think. And like the end result, essentially, it was like, well, basically, there's less competition in the console space. Now, I don't know if it did differently, if everything happened differently, where ABK was approved in 8 months instead of a year and a half, does that change anything, or is it still Xbox goes down the path that they're currently on? I don't really know if like ABK getting done sooner than later and not having to give up the cloud streaming rights, if that's something that realistically completely changes their their future. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Do you think if instead of clearing in October of 2023 and
Right.
say it was completed in October of 2022, does that move the needle? Does that change things for you or for Xbox in general? I don't know.
It's a nuanced conversation. I like the question because, I'm of the belief that even though I still agree with the move, the fact that, the CMA, we had PlayStation fighting feverishly. This is during the Jim Ryan, doing everything to stop.
Yeah, I love it. I
as he was
Jim.
supposed to.
I miss Jim.
As he was supposed to at the head of Sony, you do everything in your power because they had full control over that franchise in the sense of it being associated with PlayStation and marketing rights and a moneymaker, right? That's something I think PlayStation took for granted that, hey, like we could focus on these great single player experiences because we're the home of Call of Duty now. We're the de facto, we'll get the revenue. And to wake up one morning and say, wait a minute, they're about to own that? Where does that put us in the scheme of things? I think that was a shift, a seismic shift. But even back then, Rand, like Xbox was forever. What was your man, Brad Smith? What was it? He used to come out giving people 10-year deals. Hey, we're not taking it away from anybody. This was always the talk. Now, the question becomes, if the deal did not get held up, if you didn't get the FTC block, if you didn't get the CMA block, and the deal went through seamlessly, does that change the timeline of the multi-platform universe from Xbox? That's the question, right? Because I am of the belief that I can't imagine them thinking it would be held up and taking as long. And now you're sitting there, you did the math. At the time, Xbox consoles were selling. At the time, Game Pass numbers and growth we were getting when they announced that they were thinking about acquiring ABK. I think it's a nuanced conversation. I don't think it's a simple thing like, they acquired it. That's what doomed them, and that was it. I don't believe that. I believe there's way more nuance to it. But to the overall question, which I think what Colt was alluding to, is just that ultimately, it definitely helped the console space in terms of where now the games are going, where it is completely opening up the market as far as games going everywhere and console growth, as opposed to it locking it down and Xbox having this iron grip on stuff. That's not what happened. Everybody literally is benefiting as a result of this deal. PlayStation guys are getting to play Xbox games. Nintendo guys are getting to play Xbox games. So that's how I look at it right now. It's a funny thing, but the thing I will always push back is there were a lot of people who were pearl clutching and talking about they want this deal blocked to save the industry. And like, I wasn't with that. To me, that was always ulterior motives to me. I never fell for that. Like, we've got to stop this. This is going to destroy things. No, bro, we're in the industry right now. Look at all the top companies. They're literally all, like, gaming is the only one that is getting scrutinized for consolidation. Like, it's Square Enix, Bandai Namco. Look at the names of companies. They're literally consolidated. Like, so it was funny to me when people were going so hard, like they were moral grandstanding on it. It was just funny to me. I was just like, okay, you don't realize that in the entire world, like, there's so much consolidation with a lot of companies, that this is something that is more of a norm than people think. And I just think that because it was gaming and because it was ABK, yes, in their defense, it was a huge deal. I'm not going to say it was not. But it's just funny right now to see how things played out and the timeline where games are going everywhere. And now, the walled gardens are dropping and third parties are saying, hey, we need to put them everywhere. It's funny how things have played out with a console market that a lot of people feel isn't growing as big as it should. So that's where I'm at.
Colt, I mean, I don't know. The ABK stuff is kind of whatever. I mean, I don't think you think it would come across differently or end up changing things if it ended earlier, right? Or went through earlier.
No, I mean, it is a great nuanced discussion, and I covered it in my weekly news video that's up today. But like, you and I talked about this last night, and you were a big inspiration for me for covering this in my video, because Rand and I talked about this on the phone last night. About if Xbox didn't close the ABK deal until fall of 2023, and it would have been done maybe in spring of 2022. And that 2022 is a really bad year for Xbox. They only had Pentiment and Grounded.
Good point.
So, and you brought up a great point that they had to compromise cloud streaming rights.
Yes.
And I do think that, because I kind of posture the idea, what if they ran up against this problem and they're like, you know what, let's not do it. Let's just pay the $3 billion. Let's use this money elsewhere. Satya wouldn't have been like so itchy to get an ROI on that $80 billion. I said 80 million in my video. When I re-listened to it, I'm like, million. But the idea is, what if it went through sooner and CMA didn't fight? Because like you said, they are basically like, we wouldn't have gone to the table the way we did, knowing what we know now, because they know full well, in hindsight's 2020 for the CMA, that Xbox and Microsoft were not a threat. And I tried to tell people, and I'm just a content creator and a gaming fan, I tried to say, why are you worried about this? I didn't like write a letter to the CMA like some fans did, but my thing was like, Xbox games are available to everyone. Like, and they're trying to lessen competition. Like, Xbox has always had their games available on any device that runs Windows or Steam. They had their games available on cloud, and that was on almost every device. They were more multi-platform than anybody else. So if you're worried about Activision, Blizzard, and King games not being available, then you can't just own a PlayStation. That was my take back then. So I think that if it would have cut earlier, there's so many concessions that Xbox has made during that time when they hunkered down that we're seeing the effects of today that also contributed them to being multi-platform.
Yeah.
What Paris says, I said that in the chat. I didn't follow that.
Yeah.
He says that, Redfall and Starfield hurt the Game Pass strategy.
I mean, it certainly did. 2022 was a disaster of a year for Xbox.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I mean, it's just funny to see the CMA being like, if we had a second chance, I don't know if we do this. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. All right, wonderful. But let's see. We got Silas, member for 16 months. Rand, why are you so considerate that you never reschedule a show on Sundays because of ILP, but you have no problem dumping on Cult Show on Monday? Hey, that's not true. The reason we don't do a show on Sunday is because, for timing purposes, it would have to be during ILP. And on Mondays,
that's true.
Cult doesn't go live until 7 o'clock my time, and we would be finished by then. So that's why we don't do Sundays. It's like, I don't want to
appreciate you
step on other people's toes, so it's always earlier in the day. JD Gamer with the 5 says, had ABK been acquired in 8 months, it changes everything, like perception of Xbox winning and the appetite of Microsoft to go acquire more publishers. Maybe it does. Maybe it would have. I mean, I guess we'll never know. Maybe there's some world out there where it happened.
Remember, I love this because I remember having lunch with the great Lord Cognito in Bellevue, Washington, when Bethesda had just been signed on. It was like official and everything, and we were feeling our oats, and I gave you just one or two onion rings. But,
I remember that spot was lit. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. We were feeling good, and I know the three of us had talked a lot when ABK was like, they were going to buy them. We're like, man, they're going to do this. They're going to get ABK, and they're going to grab more, and they're just going to build up this big studio suite. And we were feeling like that for a while. And I know people have criticized me quite a bit for good reason, like that I was quote unquote championing the consolidation of the industry. But I would always just bounce back and say, you don't understand, like Xbox buying a bunch of studios, their games are always available on multiple platforms. Mm-hmm. And it's not the same. Now, if people get upset about consolidation with Tencent because they're really big, but sometimes I'm like, Tencent could buy a lot of studios, but who gets to play their games? Everyone gets to play their games. It's not even the same discussion, but maybe I'm wrong on that. What do you think, Rand?
I mean, I don't really think you're wrong on that. I think for Tencent, a lot of people don't like the idea of like Chinese company owning a lot of properties, I
mean, that's a political discussion, but I'm just like,
it is a political discussion.
It is,
that for some people do feel that way.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, like,
as fans, like, do I get to play the games? Are they available to me? Do I get to play where I want to play?
But I mean, we forget, like, a lot of the ABK acquisition stuff was strictly Xbox versus PlayStation, right? You had distinct camps between both about why it should happen and all this sort of stuff. And the against arguments people would make didn't really make any sense in the context of like where Xbox's position was at the time. And
correct.
I mean, remember, there was like people fear-mongering that if Xbox acquired ABK, they would knock PlayStation out of business. Even PlayStation themselves was like, "Oh my God, we never recover," and all this stuff, and they were, and look how it all ended up. But yeah, I mean,
that was a lie. They were trying to position the idea that they would make a worse version of Call of Duty on PlayStation. They never recover like that. No one believed that crap.
I don't know.
But Xbox had to literally bring the consoles to the actual courtroom and explain how the industry works. Like that was wild work. The last thing, I know we're going along with this one, but I just want to say also, like, people also have to, I know that the consolidation talk is very sensitive for a lot of people, but people also have to think about what the alternative is. Think about a Bethesda pre-acquisition where a lot of their major decisions are tanking. They're making games like Wolfenstein Youngblood. They're going away from their core identity to try to catch a wave and potentially go out of business. Even the ABK situation, it kind of came up on, a whim with, the whole Bobby Kotick situation and the culture at ABK. Like, a lot of these studios and publishers are on the way out. They're trending downward. And my thing is, I rather them continue to exist than have a climate where we're seeing right now where publishers and studios are getting shut down.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, like the NetEase situation with Marvel Rivals. Even more stuff I think was announced recently. Stephen Totillo, they're cutting more studios and more things. I don't know if you've seen that. I mean, that just kind of came out like today.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough in this industry right now. You make one flop, and we talked about the live service and all this other stuff. It's a very difficult industry to be sustainable, and these companies were on the way out. So, like I said, that's what people have to think about. If this didn't happen, do we still see ZeniMax proper? What happens to ABK properly? These are real questions that people have to think about based on the timeline prior to acquisition.
Yeah, I mean, the Winter Soldier $5 says, Super Chat, NetEase CEO mentioned how they didn't initially want to pay the Disney license fees. Will high fees affect future Marvel games, including Sony's? I mean, that's certainly a possibility. I mean, that's one of the things I was always worried about with Indiana Jones or Blade was we know that I think Phil's not a big proponent of licensing stuff out, and that always kind of eats into, the profitability margin for the games. But NetEase laid off a bunch of Marvel Rivals people, not a bunch, but I think 6 people in for a support studio, and that had the industry up in arms because it was like, well, wait a minute, Marvel Rivals is super successful, 40 million players, it's dominating. And then today, according to Stephen Totillo, NetEase plans to cut more All-Star Game Studios, divest itself of the majority of its overseas teams. Cutbacks have already impacted teams, shuttering studios formed by industry veterans like Untold Worlds, Jar of Sparks, Humanoid Origin, and major layoffs at Liquid Swords. Suda 51's Grasshopper Manufacturer, Nagoshi Studio, and Quantic Dream could be among a dozen studios facing potential closure if they can't secure new post-NetEase funding. So NetEase basically just decided, we're pulling out of the Western market, the Western dev stuff. We're just pulling, and it's just what the hell is going on? Wow. We talk about tough time in the industry, and it's the NetEase is we're out, see you later, right? So, and then you talk about tough time in the industry, you got to talk about future of AI, right? A lot of creatives don't like AI. They think it's going to take people's jobs. You also think a lot of AI stuff is slop. And Xbox announced yesterday or 2 days ago their version of generative AI called Xbox MUSE. And the reactions to it weren't very positive in any way. They were more on the negative slant. So I want to get your guys' opinion because I know I don't have you guys here for long. Cole, what do you think about this AI stuff? What do you think about MUSE? What do you
don't brag your new technological leap of AI using bleeding edge footage,
Cole,
please.
Why'd you bleeding edge?
I would appreciate that.
You didn't like that as proof of concept?
I don't like that, and I know Microsoft and
research.
Xbox well. Matt Booty said that they could see AI speeding up bug fixes and testing and development things, but I fully expect Microsoft and Xbox to use this as an opportunity to speed up development time, save them money, and lay off a bunch of people that create games that we love. And that's my big AI is going to happen, whether you like it or not, and you are going to lose jobs. I use the stuff very sparingly in my content as well. So I'm just really concerned that the people that make the games, that make them incredible and make them magical and wonderful and make us talk about how great they are, I don't want that being minimized as a GPU farm does the heavy lifting. And I think that's what we're going to see here in the next couple of years.
Cog?
Yeah, it's a sensitive one. You know, I'm a techie, so you know, there's a part of me that always loves iteration, and I will say I won't call myself like super pro AI, but I'm definitely a person that if there's tooling available to make development easier, I am somebody that is for that. But at the same time, I understand the human soul, the creativity, originality, artistry, and things that make the games industry passionate. And here's the thing, like right now, these models, this is not happening in Series X. This is all next generation hardware stuff. This is like when I go to the CESs with King, all the new laptops, all of them, they have NPUs, neural processing units. AI is coming. Like regardless to how people feel about it, these next generation of consoles are going to have an NPU in it. And what I look at this right now, this is all proof of concept stuff. This is all early stuff that they're making these models, and it's going to be, I'm going to say simplistic, but it's not going to. We're not at that point where we're like, yo, make the game, make a, you know what I mean? We're not there yet, but we're in the early stages of these models, right? So I think this is something that, I was surprised Ninja Theory was actually, was it Cambridge is, I guess, epicenter for a lot of this stuff where they're based out of, and they're going to be utilizing this stuff. Now, I could see examples, where on a small scale, where it helps development time from a creative standpoint. And they talked about you use Bleeding Edge as an example of it, I guess mimicking of the actions and stuff like that. There's two things they got to be concerned of. One, obviously, like Colt is completely right. How does this affect jobs, right? How does this affect the employment of the industry? Because it's really brutal right now. And a lot of people have concerns about that. Second thing, Rand, for you, I know specifically is the games, right? You don't want to take away what we consider the flavor, the tapestry of video games, why we love them so much, that heart, that feel, right? But if this makes development easier, if this helps, Coalition get out levels and stuff faster, or this helps, certain aspects you want to iterate later on in game, I could see uses. There's going to be use cases where gamers are like, all right, that's cool. But overall, what I ultimately feel, I have confidence in the purchaser, the gaming purchaser. If us as gamers see something and we like, nah, that ain't it.
That ain't it, yeah.
We ain't buying it. Like that's just, now don't get me wrong, corporations are going to push this. They are going to try to be more efficient. They're going to try to utilize technology that's, more cost effective. I get that. But, and also shout out to Tim, with budgets, these games are very expensive, right? So I understand, Corporate Cog understands why they're going to push this, but I ultimately have the confidence in a gamer to say, nah, bro, that was soulless. Or, hey, bro, you know what? That was actually cool. And time will tell. We're in the early stages of this stuff. And I think that we're not getting this until 2027, 2028 on a smaller scale. You know what I think about? It's like the metaverse in its inception. Like all these grand things about what it could do. We're not at that point yet where it's like, hey, ChatGPT, make the game. You know what I'm saying? To me, this is just, trying to iterate and help development. But we have to monitor it, and we do have to hold their foot to the fire, as far as things that we do feel may be unethical, so to speak. I know, Colt, you're a creative, you're a graphic guy. I get it. Like, I don't want to discredit any of that stuff, the things that you do. I look at the things you guys do as amazing to me. I don't have a creative hone in my body. But I also think about, last what I'll say, I also think about the smaller studio, the indie guy who doesn't have a big team. He doesn't have a budget. And if he could
like Elon.
Sorry. That was a shot. That was good. And I'm thinking about how he could make processes more efficient for the smaller guy. There's going to be some people that's going to use this stuff, Rand, in creative ways. And it's going to be a game we like. And we could be like, damn, that's fine. And there's going to be some instances where people support it. So let's just wait and see. I don't want to get too crazy just yet, but we have to definitely monitor closely. But this is a Microsoft thing as of right now.
Well, yeah, and that's what I really think it's like. It really feels like this is a Microsoft thing. And I've said it before, I don't give a shit about Microsoft. I care about Xbox. I don't care anything else that Microsoft does. But to me, this is like, it feels like it's like we've invested so much money in AI as a company that we need to put this stuff in any sort of division that we run, right? And it's like, oh, well, we can use AI in games, so of course we're going to have Xbox do it. So, like, you know, you see the thing and you see the bleeding edge stuff, and it's not terribly impressive whatsoever. You know, they talk about the use cases and how they trained it by plugging the bleeding edge footage. Like, I think some people misinterpret it like, oh, it'll make games, and that's not what really this is, like, gonna be, at least initially. But, like, just watching this stuff, and you watch and you're like, yeah, I mean, okay, early stages, whatever, it doesn't look impressive, and I wouldn't shown it off in that way anyways. I mean, hell, Colt, I didn't even think the video with Phil Spencer about it was unlisted. They didn't even bother releasing it to the public. It's just like if you had the...
Yeah, comments were brutal, and the like ratio was down.
And they sort of throw you a bone at the end by talking about preserving legacy and using it for back compat and stuff. Which I thought we know, like, the biggest barrier to the back compat stuff is licenses and copyright. Mm-hmm. Like, if you don't have the license to do it, you won't be able to do it. You know, they talk about maybe they did mention their own games, so maybe they're like, they know it's like their stuff, and like, oh, we'll be able to use AI to maybe port some of this other stuff to other platforms or other devices. But it really felt like to me that was kind of a it was like it was something to sell to gamers, because like I think when you see the bleeding edge stuff and it's not terribly impressive, and you're like, I don't know about this, but then you get into the back compat bag, which most everybody seems to love, and they really do appreciate Microsoft's stance on backwards compatibility and stuff. So they kind of throw you that bone of being like, and the back and pat stuff could really be helped out. So they're trying to like sell people on a vision or future vision, and they use like one of the things that people really like care about preservation of these games and stuff. And it's like, we'll see how it goes. To me, I don't know. I think it's kind of like back a few years ago when if you're an investor and you wanted money, or if you were a company and you wanted money, it was Meta. It was the metaverse, right? Like, oh, we're doing the metaverse, we're doing this, we're spending all this money because we're going to try to force this down everybody's throat. And, well, we saw how that worked out for Meta. Or even a lot of these investors, they'd be like, what do you got? We're like, oh, we're doing NFTs. Remember when NFTs were supposed to be the hot new thing and the rage? And investors were really high on, like, Web3 and all that stuff. How'd that all pan out? It didn't.
Horribly.
Now the big investor hot term is AI. AI this, AI that. I mean, NVIDIA for a while was the number one valued company, by valuation in the world. NVIDIA, a company that only made GPUs strictly because of their AI advancements. Like, AI has just become this thing that everybody is throwing so much money into, Microsoft included. So it's no surprise that Microsoft is going to try to use that for future products. And it's just kind of like, I don't really like AI, and I don't think we're there yet. I think gaming is so complex that I don't want to... Look, I don't even really know much about the tech, but if it could help developers be more efficient while keeping their jobs, I'd be all for it. But I just doubt that these massive corporations that are really just in it for profit over everything else, like, if they find an avenue, you damn well know that people are going to lose their jobs over it, and they're going to exploit it, because that's just what these companies do all the time. It doesn't matter that, like, the human cost doesn't really factor into them. They're just gonna get rid of it. So I just don't really like AI, and I haven't really seen anything that makes me excited about the idea of using AI in games in the future, you know. So
well, you haven't seen the overlay stuff where they take like Grand Theft Auto 5 and they have AI in real time like pretty up the graphics and make the lighting look super
there's
surreal.
there's AI they use for super resolution and like all that stuff.
Yeah, well, but you haven't seen the videos where they take like Grand Theft Auto 5 and they give it like this ultra realistic overlay, like it's like a photorealistic overlay in real time, and it kind of pops in and out because it's not perfect. That was like a trending thing about 3 weeks ago. You need to check it out on YouTube. Some guy like ran a real time thing that like put a beautiful coat of paint over the game, and it can look a little wonky, but when you talk about preservation of older games, like if you want to take some older classic Xbox games, everyone always says that brute force, even though I thought that game was dumb. Like, oh, I want brute force in 2025, and then they use this AI program that you give it parameters like make it look more photorealistic, make it look more modern, and it just passes over it and keeps this styling. And then you could do the rest of the work, and it can save a lot of time. But I don't know if that's what they're looking for. The whole AI thing is, I use it in thumbnails. I used it in my Skyrim thumbnail. I used Grok. I generated like 5 images, and then I took the best of talent that I had to kind of like build that into a cohesive image that I don't think looks like it's AI generated, because people can see it right off the bat, you know? So it's a really powerful tool. And I work in graphic design and marketing in my real job, and I could see there's a lot of things that AI could take over. And when gaming fans just don't want to hear the words AI at all, they think it's a bastardization of what they love about gaming. And then Xbox, like, we're going to put this unlisted video up. And they invited me to the briefing on a Tuesday morning. And I'm like, well, I'm at work. Plus, this is AI. I'm not interested. And I'm glad I didn't. I would have been sitting there for an hour going, what the heck are you guys doing? Like, don't talk about this stuff till it's ready. Freeze Phil, would you ship this? Yeah, so
it's funny. No, I hear what you guys saying. I think for me, it's just more like the part that interests me is the back compat on a different level, because you know, I'm from the era. I remember when back compat was first announced, right? And I'm from the era where it's like you had to have the initial hardware, the older hardware components in the newer system, right? So you could play the older game. Like I'm you know, Genesis kid, in order to play Master System games, you had to get the power base converter. You know what I'm saying? Like, you physically had it. So when I heard, like, oh, wow, they're doing back compat through virtualization, I'm, like, blown away as a techie. Like, that is next level stuff. So I guess in this case, I guess to try to pose it to you guys, let's say, I don't know, 5-6 years down the road, and, you know, Xbox drastically shifts away from AMD and they go to another technology space. And if there's a way you could preserve games that, you know, you hear developers lose the code. Oh, we can't do that anymore. The source code's gone, man. You know what I'm saying? But if they had this type of technology, right, and you can kind of be able to mimic it and then recreate that kind of those games that are lost to time, that's kind of cool to me, right? But to me, ultimately, where I think Rand's going at as far as the games, I think this is more developer right now. And if it makes them a little more efficient without losing jobs, you know, if it makes the game development cycle, as we have to admit, what is these games, 4 to 5 years now, right? To come out, bro, these games take a while. If there's a way, now corporations are going to push the envelope, right? They're going to try to really push it. But if there's a way to make it easier for development without losing the soul, we'll see. But again, that's a lot of copium, I guess, on my part. I just want to see how the tech really is effective. Or is it right now just we're in this infancy stage where it's really minor stuff right now? Time will tell.
Well, I also know I gotta get you guys out of here because you have things to do. So I'm gonna get you out of here on this last question here. I don't know if either of you saw this, but Saber Interactive, the makers of Warhammer, Space Marine 2, which I think me and Colt both played, which I quite liked. I know Colt liked it. Came out that they are working on a new AAA game from a tentpole Hasbro IP. And I'm going to ask you, what game do you want them to be working on? What is the tentpole Hasbro IP that you know Like, what would you
One
want?
shall stand,
Oh.
one shall fall.
Yes.
Autobots transform. And
I mean,
roll out.
they have the Warhammer. Just turn them into Decepticons and Autobots, and you got a game right there.
Oh my gosh, yeah, just reskin it and I'd be totally happy.
Yeah.
Man, if any developer could do it, because y'all know how hard I go for using the High Moon Studios Transformers games, the War for Cybertron 4th. Oh my God, they're so good. Xbox.
Did you see that leaked one that got canceled like a month ago? Bro, that's criminal.
So crazy right there. So yeah, man, like it's Transformers for me, bro. All day, every day. Hey, we already got like a template, proof of concept. So I'm with you, man. I'm with you. What you think, Colt?
Yeah, I mean, it could be Ninja Turtles. I mean, I don't know what Hasbro's not Ninja Turtles, is it? I don't know what their tentpole IP is other than Transformers. And I think when I saw that report this morning, they used a G1 Transformers illustration. So yeah, it's definitely got to be that. And I would not, I wouldn't even mind if they took a bunch of that work, that canceled game, said, we're going to grab this and we're going to finish it for you. Because I liked what I saw. And I want Transformers. And I want those games back in Pat. I want those on.
Yeah.
You can't even buy half of them on PC anymore or console.
I know. I mean, we even had there was a super chat we even had about it from God Sitman. Why haven't there been more ABK games in Game Pass? Why is it taking so long?
Taking long.
It's like, yeah, I mean, it does. It has been a long time for them to do that. So I don't know what the holdup is. I really don't. But I'm surprised though, Cog, because I thought you'd be like, you know what? How about some G.I. Joe?
I thought about that too.
AAA G.I. Joe could be
Transformers
something.
over G.I. Joe every day.
I mean,
and I love G.I. Joe.
That is true. That is true. I
Joe.
take a new Transformers game as well. Plus, Saber knocked it out of the park with Warhammer.
Hell yeah!
It's like, all right, but then it's like, wait a minute, they're not going to do Warhammer Space Marine 3? Were they just going to go on to do something? I don't know how big Saber is, but maybe they could have multiple projects. But I mean,
I think they have a nice foundation to make a sequel for Space Marine a lot faster, and they know what they're doing. What was Saber Interactive's last big game? Because they really shocked the world with the quality on Warhammer.
I don't know. I'd have to look. But
wasn't it? I can't remember.
Saber. I'm not sure, but I knew I only had you guys for a couple hours because Colt's got to do another podcast and Cog's got to go out there and do some stuff. So, Colt, I'll let you go. Tell everybody. Well, everybody knows where you're at. I mean, but let everybody who doesn't know who you are and what you do, tell them where they can find you.
I appreciate that, Rand. If you want to check out some of the content, I've covered some of these topics today in my weekly news video. I'll be on Ecstasy Podcast on Monday. If you want to hear some more stuff about Avowed, I don't know if anybody has heard enough yet, but I'm going to be on with Lone Vault Wanderer. He's phenomenal. He just had Maddie on his new podcast, and we're just going to hang back and talk about the gaming stuff. And this is always good to hang out with you two. I really appreciate you having me on.
It's almost like we should start a podcast, Colt, Rand, and Cog, huh? What would we call it?
The Power Hour. The Power 4 Hour.
The Three Amigos.
It'll be lit. These are conversations we have.
Thanks, Rand. We appreciate it.
Cog, people say they're the 25% best of ILP, 50% best of defining Duke. You're here, and I know everybody knows who you are, but for anybody that doesn't, where can they find you? Because I know your Twitter presence only really kind of consists of, smirk or fire, or you don't really say much or whatever. But like,
I'll keep it low on Twitter, man. I can't be gangbanging out in the streets like that, man. There's a lot of violence in the Twitter streets. But yeah, you can find me at Lord Cognito on Twitter. And obviously, Iron Lords podcast every Sunday is the Lord's Day, 1 p.m. Eastern. Go check us out. 1/4 of the crew. Send some love to Sov, man. Not to dampen the mood, but he lost his dad, and we went to the funeral, recently. So send some love to my brother, Lord Sov. Love is, so many memories with his father, positive stuff, and growing up, and us being Sega kids and getting him his first Master System. We got memories, man. So send some love to him. And then obviously, if you want more Xbox-centric content, check out Defining Duke. Me and Mr. Matty Plays. And I'll be back next week. And Rand, it's always fun, man. It's always fun to get back in the realm of Xbox 2. Send some love to Jez on vacation. Colt.
He's on vacation.
Yeah, good to see you. Hopefully I see you in the summer.
How come I don't see Cog on XNC? It's...
Been on.
Never there.
I've been on actually like at least 2 times.
At least twice. At least twice.
Yeah, I feel it. Come on. You already know. And I got to get Colt back on and stuff. Shout out to Paris in the chat hating. No, I was just joking. I see you, man. It's all love, brother. I know you out here teasing, being funny. And salute to the chat, man. Everybody that shows us love. This is always fun. And obviously when Rand throws up the bat signal, when I could do it, I got to hold him down, man. So these are the homies right here. So salute.
Well, all right. Well, thank you guys for stopping by. I got some Patreon questions I need to take care of. And it sucks because, we didn't really talk about Phil Spencer's comments from last week, although it is a week old. We were going to get to him, but it was like conversation was flowing and it just couldn't get to him.
Oh,
I mean, because, Phil said some things, but I think everybody kind of knows what he is. But yeah, you guys have a good rest of the day.
All right, brother.
Thanks so much. Thanks to everybody in the audience.
Later.
All right.
Peace.
Later, guys.
Later. All right, let's see. We still have some super chats I got to get to. And, let's see. Can you guys still hear me? I think you can. It looks like, I don't know, did Discord just crash on me? Hold on a second. Let me just leave this and come back. All right, there we go. This should be fine. Yes, I'm still here. Colton, I knew Colt and Cog were only going to be on for like 2 hours, so I was going to hang for a little bit longer afterwards, talk about whatever we sort of didn't talk about. And yeah, so we do have a couple more super chats here I wanted to say. CR Crimpy says, how much to see some squats from all three? And you all know you want it. I mean, not for me. That's more of Cog's thing. It'd be funny, though, if we all tried to do that. Jonas the Dad says, people misunderstand AI already. Here, these companies are 3 to 5 years ahead of us versus what they say publicly. It's here, people. Hit that like button. Indeed, hit the like button. Game Seeker says, do any of you guys know the cost and time on porting a game like Spider-Man 2 from PS5 to PC? No idea. I mean, judging from Yoshida's quotes, it doesn't cost a lot, and I would imagine that's true for most things. So, but we don't know about the actual, like, how long it takes. In Spider-Man 2 case, we don't know when they started, but we know they released it, like, essentially a year and a couple months later. But not sure on, like, the full timeline of all that stuff. So, Tim, we didn't get to touch on Matt Piscatella's kind of funny interview. I did watch some of it, but like I said, like the conversation was flowing, and it was just we only had so much time with Colt and Cog that we didn't really have a chance to talk about it. I will say that I did find some of the statistics pretty interesting along the lines of the industry about how 30% of the people won't even buy a game this year, he said. 30% of the video game industry, of people who, play games, won't buy a single game this year. Obviously, they're playing free-to-play stuff, and they're probably spending money on microtransactions, which that's the lifeblood for stuff like Fortnite and Call of Duty, which I did see if you want to buy all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff and Call of Duty, it costs you $90. $90 for that stuff. But it's like, yeah, if a third of your audience isn't going to buy anything, you're already starting off pretty low. And then he said 18% of people will buy one game every 6 to 8 months, which is kind of crazy to me because that's almost 50% of the audience right there. Right, 30% won't buy a damn thing, and then 18% will buy one every 6 to 8 months, which is your Maddens and things like that. And only 12% of the audience is people who would buy one game a month. That's, when you talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, or you talk about the Resident Evils, or any other games that release every single month, your potential audience is just 12% of the overall pie, which is pretty difficult to kind of compete against. And Matt said that all these games are competing against Fortnite. Fortnite is the barrier to success because it has all these players and stuff. It's like, holy crap. So what do you say? Also, like 4% of people are only, will be the ones who buy multiple games a month. So like the market is basically saying a small percentage of people buy one game a month. An even smaller percentage of people buy 2 a month, where most people don't even buy games. I don't know. And I think those numbers probably aren't going to improve at any point in time in the future. And I sort of wonder what those numbers were like before. I don't know if Matt said this, but I would love to know what those numbers were before Fortnite and the free-to-play push on console. Because I would imagine it would have been much higher. I don't, like, obviously you wouldn't have your 30% don't buy anything because the free-to-play stuff didn't exist. So it'd be interesting to see, back in 2017, what were the numbers of people who buy a game a month? I would imagine it's significantly higher than the 12% that it currently is. And how long did it take to go from free-to-play being introduced on console and everywhere else to essentially being the point where it's 30% don't even buy anything? I would love to see that info, just to see like it's almost like seeing the info between physical and digital, where during the Xbox One generation, people didn't want digital. Physical was the way to go, and people bitched about Xbox's whole digital push. And then, just on its own, it just gravitated towards digital. And now the majority of games sold on PlayStation and Xbox is like, I think on PlayStation it's like 75% digital, and Xbox is probably like 85%, 90%, which is why they don't do a lot of physical games. It's different on Nintendo, but I remember just looking at those statistics, and it was like every year the share would go more towards digital, and you just reached that point where it's almost like 80%. Yeah, and XFleet says, Matt mentioned that Xbox finances are consistently strong despite the console hardware decline, which, yeah, he did mention that, and he talked about how Xbox's strategy is changing. Game Pass isn't the be-all anymore for them because they're going to be selling games everywhere, which is part of the XboxERA interview. My friends over there, Sicka Mechanico and Jesse and good old Special Nick had an interview where they talked about this stuff, and it was cool to hear about Everwild, and I think we'll probably see that this year. And he mentioned Double Fine's game, which makes me think that they got to be due for a reveal of some kind. I wouldn't be surprised if it was at the Xbox show. I mean, Psychonauts 2 was in 2021. It was 4 years ago. They got to be getting close. And this is also where Xbox can sort of hold announcements. Like, you don't have to announce things 3 years out anymore, and they haven't been. In previous generations, if they actually had a game like Ninja Gaiden 4, they would have announced that stuff 4 years in advance or 3 years in advance to be like, oh, we got Ninja Gaiden 4. But now they have so much stuff. It's like, we'll just wait until it's closer. So now it's Ninja Gaiden 4 announced and released in the same year. And with how much time has gone on from Psychonauts 2, you could see an announcement of, hey, here's our next project by Double Fine, and guess what? It's coming out within a year. I mean, I'm a fan of that. I said, like 2 years is the sweet spot, or at least the longest I would want to be. Like, if you announce something in 2025, I hope it's out by 2027. I think that's pretty good. But even if you want to do it less than that, that's great, right? So it does seem like Xbox has moved away from announcing stuff too early. But yeah, the other things in the Phil interview about putting logos on their things, I think it's pretty apparent, after watching the Dev Direct with PlayStation all over everywhere. Like, you knew that was going to be a thing. If they're going to do it in the Developer Direct, of course, they're going to do it in the showcase. And I understand, like, it is a change. And there are still some people unhappy about Xbox's position in the market and what they're doing with the multi-platform push. and how feels like I'm not trying to bring everybody over anymore, which is what they used to do. And I mean, what else can you really say about the whole multi-platform thing that hasn't already been said? Right? It's just they're doing it, and maybe it works out extremely well for them. Maybe it doesn't, and their next hardware cycle that they're doing, a handheld and a console, performs super poorly, or maybe by having Steam and these other storefronts on there. I saw like a video from, I think it's like Some Ordinary Gamer, big YouTube channel, and he talked about Xbox and how they could dominate if they allowed Steam on the next Xbox. And he's like, imagine if like Xbox was, you buy this system and it also had Steam on it, so you had your Xbox library and your Steam library in one place. He said it could basically dominate that whole mid-range PC segment that is expensive, and he made a good argument about it. So I don't know how the future is going to work. I'd imagine Gabe's like, yeah, sure, let me have Steam on your system. I'll sell more games to people. We'll see how that all plays out. But now I'm just curious about like what we're going to see from certain studios this year, because I think like with Danny in Paris and Destin and XboxERA interviewing Phil, I sort of feel like there's really no more questions you can ask them in a nice manner. I mean, there are questions you can say being like, hey, how are you gonna keep developers happy with developing for an Xbox platform that might see a decline if nobody buys the hardware? How are you going to keep them excited to continue to develop for Xbox hardware, which I think is a question you could ask. But I'm not sure you would get an answer for Phil. It might just be a PR puff piece in that regard. And I feel like you'd have to wait until they're ready to talk about what the next console and next handheld actually are going to do innovation-wise before you could really sit down and have a talk with Phil about stuff. Because all the questions have been asked. Everybody knows Xbox's future and what they're doing. So I really wouldn't even want to talk to Phil until they've announced the next consoles and they've talked about, hey, here's the innovations and all the things we're planning on doing. Because then you could be like, okay, what is your plan regarding back compat? Because even if you asked him now, he's not going to like say anything tangible. Like he did say to XboxERA that, I think we've respected the people's back compat libraries, right? Which is sort of like code for Phil saying the next system's going to have back compat in a way. But I would rather wait until they can talk about that, where they can go in depth about how back compat would work. Would they have any improvements from, like the Hoochie method where they had games that had like the 4K stuff or FPS boost? Like, is there any sort of things you can get from that? Like, how's development going to be? Like, is the console going to run console games, or is it going to just be a PC? Because here's what I think the next Xbox console is. I think the next Xbox console is basically a PC. I mean, I know already you can say it's basically a PC, it runs Windows and all that stuff. But it's like literally going to be a PC that I think they just branded as a console. And what they're going to do is, I think they are going to combine the development of their Windows PC and their console. So developers have to make a single game, right? If you make it for the Windows Store, then that version would essentially work on the console, which is just a PC, which, developers have been, they make a game for Steam. Yeah, it works on all these different configurations. But with Xbox, it's like, okay, you have these console games right now. Like Obsidian's got to make a port of Avowed for the Series X and Series S, and then they'd have a port for, on the Windows Store. And, we've already seen, you don't want to give developers a lot of extra work, which is why some of them have talked about the Series S and how it doesn't have like the memory they would want it and stuff like that. So it's like, how do you fix that? And I think they're moving in that direction where they'll build their dev pipeline and their dev kits to the point where it's super easy to port the game from Steam to Windows Store, and then that game will just run on the PC and the Xbox. And I think that's exactly how it's going to go. Now, 9Live says, Rand, I hate the new Xbox direction. It feels soulless. I mean, everybody's going to have their opinions about it, about what direction they move in. You know, some will be like, I hate the lessening of competition in the space because Xbox really is, you know, getting out of the market and they're selling their exclusive games everywhere. So, you know, why would I buy an Xbox if I can get everything? Why would I buy an Xbox if I can get everything on PlayStation and Nintendo? And I understand those arguments. You know, there's the innovation that they could do in the space, like essentially allowing Steam or other storefronts in there, and who knows what other sort of innovations they could do, which I don't know if that would spark any competition, but gaming, it's kind of, yeah, when I, you know, if you idolize like the 360 generation or the earlier generations, like I think gaming's moved past that, and we're in this situation where Xbox, because of the ABK thing and because their hardware platform declining as it has, is like, all right, well, we need to spread ourselves to everywhere. And they're going to make more money than they ever have before. But are you losing that special identity that you had? And it's a nuanced question that some people will feel, you know, hey, it doesn't matter because more people can play these games, and I'll get more games from Xbox because they have more studios. And, you know, some people feel that, like, hey, this is when gaming was best, we'll be disappointed. I don't know. I just want great games from Microsoft. I think I've said that constantly. I don't care that other people are playing games, Xbox games on their PlayStation and Nintendos. That doesn't bother me. I mean, hell, it doesn't bother me that I was playing Avowed on the Xbox console while somebody else was playing the better version on PC. That's never bothered me one bit. But I do have to wonder, like, what's this going to lead to? Like I said, I'm not a fan of the direction that they're doing because I don't think it's an automatic win. But I also am just going to be like, all right, we'll see how this plays out. And I just don't have the energy to be angry about the direction that Xbox has gone in. Like, it's just like, I can't change anything. So there's no use being angry about it. You know, so it's like, I think this might be a mistake, but who am I? I don't know anything. Maybe it's going to be a huge advantage for them. And next generation Xbox is like, does something really special with the innovation on their system and allowing other storefronts on there, and the handheld console combo with PC and cross-platform and cross-saves and stuff really elevates Xbox to a new stratosphere. I don't know. It's certainly possible. But I'm more interested in playing like all the games that Xbox has coming out. So is it soulless? I mean, when you talk about Xbox coming out with AI, yeah, a lot of people would say AI is soulless, is it not? So, I'm not a fan of the AI stuff. Paris says, we're at a point being angry won't change anything when the CEO of Microsoft is telling you this direction they aren't going back. Yeah, it's just, there's no point becoming angry and expending energy on something that you literally can't change. So I'm just along for the ride, I guess. And if some point I want to get off, I'll get off. And if I want to play on PC, the games are going to be there from them. And if you want to play on PlayStation, the games are going to be there. I mean, play where you feel like you're going to get the most value for the money and where you want to play. And currently, that's on the Xbox console. Will that change at some point in the future? Possibly. I mean, I don't know. Who knows where I'll be playing games in 3 years, but that's where I'm at right now. But I do think, for anybody worried that where their games, if they lose their games going forward, I don't think they will. I think the Xbox games will be emulated on this new device that they're going to release. and like the back compat stuff and all your purchases will just move forward, but it'll be like through emulation. I wonder how that's going to work, but that's how I really think they're going to, because the idea of like, okay, Xbox is going to sell less, so how are you going to keep developers excited about porting to a platform that has less users? But if you just made it like a PC version for everything, and then you made it super easy for developers to port their games from Steam to elsewhere, and then if you port it to Xbox, you get it on their store and the console and the handheld and the cloud, as long as it was like as painless as possible. And developers already are making a PC version, so it'd just be like, okay, so then, but okay, what about the older games though? And I that's where I think the emulation will come through back compat. I mean, they're talking about in this AI thing, and maybe that's something that would help, but that's how I think they'll keep the like your past library going with you, is that it'll all be through emulation and stuff. T-Mog says, but there was a point when Xbox listened to their consumers, indeed, but guess what? They spent Daddy Satya's money, and now those people have to listen to him and the board, because at the end of the day, money talks. So that's where you end up. Yeah, I mean, I remember the days when they tried raising Xbox Live Gold and everybody came out against it and they changed their minds. But this is like more deep than that. And it's just, you spent the money. The hardware sales aren't great. We need higher margins. Honestly, you know what? If Xbox, I bet you if you asked Satya today, and if you had like the lasso of truth around him, so he couldn't tell a lie, and if you asked him if he regretted purchasing ABK, I bet you he would say yes. Because I bet you he would think now that $70 billion he spent on ABK would be better served invested in AI. Because that's where Microsoft's money is going right now, is into AI. And I wonder if they just lament the opportunity costs where they could have spent that money into OpenAI and all that stuff back in 2022 instead of on ABK. So, yeah, I bet you if you asked him and he couldn't lie, yeah, he'd say I'd rather have spent the money on AI. But is AI ever going to take off? I don't know. Are they ever going to release a tangible product that people want to pay for with AI? Who knows? Who knows? Be Nice says, I don't share all that doom and gloom. I'm picking up the next gen Xbox. If that's the last console, I'll say it was awesome and continue gaming. Life goes on. We don't know the future. No, I mean, that's nothing doom and gloom. I'm with you. I'm picking up the next gen Xbox as well. And I do think that probably is the last console. But I mean, even if it comes out in 2027 and you're looking at it like an 8-year gen, you're talking about 2035. You know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's doom and gloom. I just don't agree with the strategy. But at this point, I've accepted the strategy. So I'm just like, whatever. I'm still going to enjoy all the games played between now and then. I'm not upset about it in any way. I'm not angry. If you are, then I'm not going to say you're wrong for feeling a certain way. If you aren't, fine. But I'm just along for the ride. Xbox is still my preferred platform. It's where I spend 100% of my gaming time, or 99% of it. And that's where it will continue to get all my stuff spent. I just don't agree with the strategy. But I'm just a single person talking on a microphone, so what does it matter what my opinion is? So I actually think the next 4 years for Xbox are going to be probably the best they've ever had in terms of the things that are most important, and that's games. You can already see the increase in game quality when compared to the Xbox One generation. and they've nailed, I wouldn't say they've nailed that aspect, but they've definitely, if you go do the Metacritic averages of the games they've released during the Xbox One gen, it's pretty low. And if you look at it now, it's definitely way higher than it was. So the next 4 years are going to be absolutely fantastic. All the games that are going to come out and everything, and I'm going to have a blast. And I can't wait to see how Microsoft positions their next console and what sort of innovations they have and how they try to sell it. And if they really do allow another storefront on there, like how does that impact it? How does that change the market? Or do people copy them? I mean, that's the I'm most excited about is the games. So don't say there's like doom and gloom. I'm super excited about all the games that are coming out in the future. I'm just not. I like I said. I wish they made a different decision, but I understand why they made the decision. Joaquin says, "You buying a Switch?" I mean, I have a Switch. I just never use it. So like the idea of a Switch 2 and me buying one, it's like probably not. Probably not, because I know how much I used the Switch 1, and it wasn't worth the money I spent on it. So I know I wouldn't spend a lot of... I just don't like Nintendo games. So I don't think I would buy the Switch 2, because I feel like it'd be a waste of money for me. Now, I reiterate, for me, I'm not saying it's a waste of money for anybody else. Don Otaku in the chat's probably furious right now about me saying it's a waste of money. But for my gaming tastes and where I play, it would just basically be $500 or $600 or however much it's going to be, just down the drain, because I wouldn't get my money's worth out of it, even through the whole gen. I don't care about Zelda. I don't care about Mario. I don't care about Mario Kart. The only thing I really care about from Nintendo's Metroid, and granted there is going to be a new Metroid, but am I really going to buy a console for like a single game? I don't think I should, and I don't think I would. I don't have money to burn. I'm not rich by at all. So, and even if it had like Game Pass, what does it matter? I also don't like, I'm not big a fan of handheld gaming. So even like Xbox's own handheld, I just like, that doesn't really excite me. I know it excites a lot of you in chat, but it's not, handheld gaming isn't, I don't know. It's not something that I look at and be like, that's for me. I wish like Colt or Cog were here, because I think Cog's really into handheld gaming, and I know Colt really isn't. So when they do release the Xbox handheld, I'm just going to be like, eh. And, you know, I have the console and the PC, so Switch having Game Pass wouldn't do anything for me at all, so I don't know. 4XP Gaming, he says, Xbox's new strategy is good for games and for gamers. If Xbox had the strategy 10 years ago, games like Rise, Son of Rome, and Quantum Break would have gotten sequels. Good for fans of those games. Possibly. You could possibly be right. Like, I know there was supposed to be a Rise, and there still might be a Rise 2. There are rumors of it, but Xbox and Crytek couldn't come to an agreement about a Rise 2, so it didn't happen. And yeah, I would imagine if Quantum Break was a success, there probably would have been a Quantum Break 2. But it also existed in that early time before Game Pass happened for Xbox, and I always wonder, like, what if Quantum Break came out on Game Pass for Xbox and done better and had more players? Would they have wanted to do a sequel to it? Or is Remedy just too expensive of a partner to make? Because, I mean, that game was delayed quite a bit from when it was supposed to come out. And Alan Wake, you know, didn't really sell a lot. And I think Quantum Break didn't sell a lot either. So, somebody in chat says, I don't like it. I don't like change. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's not that I don't like change. It's just, I'm perfectly happy with change. I just, I'm curious about how this change is gonna affect things. right? Because I mean, I can look at the scenario and being like, this could be the greatest thing to ever happen for Xbox, and you could lay out the reasons why, X, Y, Z, and it's, you know, and it could happen. But then you could also lay out the reasons, and it could be the worst thing. But I think both things are on the table, or probably realistically be in the middle somewhere. Crispy Nugget says Xbox 2 sucks. Just kidding. It's all right. Oh, I know it wasn't meant as a shot, and I've said that before about this, about how the idea of the console industry has always worked this one way, and has basically worked this one way our entire lives, from Nintendo to the Genesis, and like everything was like, this is how it worked, and it's finally changing, and people are going to be like, I don't know, like this seems off. Like, you're changing, but not everybody's changing. But yeah, everybody's changing. Xbox is multi-platform. Sony's putting more games on PC. They're doing some games day one on PC, which is, you know, you said that in 2019, you had been laughed at. Like, when I said Horizon Zero Dawn was coming to PC, the amount of PlayStation users that talk shit about me constantly was so much. And I tuned it out. You know, I turned off notifications on my Twitter, but you would have these guys in podcasts talking about me, in my opinion, like, Rand doesn't know what he's talking. It wasn't that I didn't know what I was talking about. I was like, I literally knew it was happening. So it's like, they didn't want to believe it because also it's change. Like, Sony couldn't do this. This is how Sony's always operated. Sony never put stuff on PC. And then all of a sudden they did, and you've already seen it. Then people were happy because, oh, well, at least it's 4 years later. At least it was 4 years. Like God of War 2018. Oh, coming to PC in 2022. Who cares? Sony's smart because they'll get people to double dip. 4 years? Come on, you're not going to wait for it, right? And then it was like 4 years became 2 years, and then suddenly 2 years became 1 year, and now you're at that point now where there's talk of like, well, it's eventually just going to be day and date. Especially with Xbox not being a competitor, quote unquote, as some people would say in the hardware space. Why wouldn't Sony put their games day and date on PC? You'd make more money, your games would be bigger. They probably feel that Xbox is not a threat anymore, and the PlayStation is just that console you get if you want to play all the biggest games that come out, regardless of the fact that they are on Xbox. So my line of thinking was, if PlayStation does go day and date on PC, I don't think it really materially affects their first party or their console sales in any meaningful way whatsoever. Because they have something that Xbox never did, and that's the cultural zeitgeist of like, hey, I want to get out there and I want to play the Battlefields and I want to play the Maddens, the FIFAs and stuff. The console you get's PlayStation, and hasn't been an Xbox for a couple generations at this point. So even if they said, hey, Wolverine's day one on PC or Ghost of Yotai is, I think they would still sell tons of consoles. I don't think it would impact it whatsoever. But yeah, change, you know, can be scary for a lot of different things. Life, gaming, anything else. Mr. Irishman with the 5 says, any thoughts on Majorna 1, and do you guys think it could help anything on the gaming side? I have no idea what Majorana 1 is. Does anybody else know? I have no idea what that is. Let me know in chat if you know what Mr. Irishman's talking about. Oh, the new chip? The quantum stuff? I didn't really read about anything about the quantum chip. I know some people think that it might be used within the next Xbox. I don't really see it being in the next Xbox. Honestly, I didn't read anything about it. Like, that stuff is just all over my head, so... I mean, it's cool. It sounds cool, but I'm not the person to ask for that. So, I mean, could it be in the next Xbox? I mean, I guess anything is possible, but I wouldn't put money on it. If I was betting at Vegas, I wouldn't put money on. I would put money on the next Xbox console PC having AI cores of some kind. I think that's where, when Phil talks about innovation, I think that's where they would innovate, is on like AI stuff with some of the cores running those things. I don't know how expensive it's going to be. Could it be a $700 console? Possibly. I mean, if you're only expecting to sell 15 to 20 million of these things, you can probably, and you don't want to lose money on the consoles anymore, you probably price it a little high, or maybe it can allow them to make a better console and then sell it at a price point that they think is okay, instead of like, because I think that was some of the issues with the Series X and S, was they just couldn't bring the cost down. So I still think they lose money. I still think they lose like something like $100 in the Series X, even after all this time. And they probably don't want to lose the money on it anymore. So, people say, well, just sell more consoles. Like, just sell like 10 more Series X's, right? 10 million more of these things. But they might look at it like, well, if we produce 10 million more of these things and sell them, but we lose $100 on each one, I mean, you're talking about over $1 billion loss. Are we going to make up any of that? With all these people who are 30% of the audience, Matt Piscatella says, they don't buy a game. So it's like, okay, if we sell an extra 10 million of these things and we take another $1 billion loss, are we going to make up? Because you would imagine the people buying an Xbox now probably aren't the biggest spenders, because the biggest spenders jump in an early generation, the first couple years. So anybody kind of joining now, it's probably somebody who's not going to spend a lot of money. So are you willing to lose billions of dollars on getting people who aren't really going to spend money so you can make that back? I sort of wonder if that's the line of thinking for them sometimes, if it's just really a money issue, Because everything comes down to money at the end of the day. Deus says, Rand, have you seen the reviews of the Legion Go S? Because people are not happy that it's expensive to buy, and the features of the handheld was underwhelming. I have not seen the reviews of Legion Go S. I don't really follow handheld gaming very much because it's not something that interests me. So I didn't know people were underwhelmed by what it has. My buddy OBM, yep, Rand, the customers who buy an Xbox late in the gen are more likely to be casuals who only play free-to-play games. It's not the same as the customers near the start of the generation. Be Nice says, Xbox has so many titles and games in the works, they could easily still have some exclusives, even if they did 4 exclusives a year. I can see another acquisition or 2 in the near future. I could see an acquisition on the studio side where there's like an individual studio that they have their eyes on, that they think fits their portfolio, and that they're okay spending that money on. I sort of feel, at least for the near future, that they're kind of out of the publisher running. I mean, we know they were looking at a lot of publishers, from Paradox to Sega and all those in betweens. I do think they'd be open to buying an individual developer. Queen in chat says Crystal Dynamics, certainly a possibility. Maybe if Warner Brothers ever really truly wants to get out of gaming and NetherRealm's for sale, I could see there being like a bidding war for NetherRealm. I mean, fighting game studios, there are not a lot of them in this industry, and NetherRealm's one of the best. And Xbox clearly, I think, needs a fighting game studio. And if you could own because that's where I also think like you would probably get the Mortal Kombat IP with them. Because with the Warner Brothers, I think they would want to be like Disney, where they're licensing stuff out. Because you're not going to buy Rocksteady Games and get the Batman IP with it. So if you bought Rocksteady and you built the Batman game, like, you'd have to license stuff out, which isn't going to happen. I know Xbox has kind of done that more recently with Indiana Jones and stuff. But I do think it's going to be something that maybe they don't do very often unless the team's super behind it. Yeah, I could see a couple studios where maybe they feel like it fits within their budget and within their needs. But I don't, like, if you were to tell me Koei Tecmo or Sega or Square Enix or something, I'd be like, I don't know about that. I don't think so. Yes, if you're new here, I do have a landline, and the phone rings all the time, but I never answer it. And yeah, it's a staple of the Xbox too. Juan says, "Hey Rand, love the podcast. I'm late, so I don't know if you already talked about the Brazil console issues for Xbox. I saw something about that, and I was kind of gonna wait until Jez came back from vacation to talk about it. But apparently, they're gonna be shipping less consoles to Brazil, Series X's in the future. It kind of, I don't know if that's true. It seems like it is, and it definitely seems, I don't know, like." Xbox is kind of, they haven't really been great to the Brazilian audience in recent years. So this does kind of seem like something they would do, I guess. Joaquin says, "Well, Rand, Phil did say their biggest growth right now is in Asia. Would make sense. Yes, because it's easy to say your biggest growth is in Asia when you basically had nothing there before, and now you actually have something there. Come on, they didn't tell you the percentage, right? Because you would imagine nobody plays Xbox in Asia. So any new person growing there, like, look, if they had 0 people previously playing in Asia, and then they had 1 person playing, that's 100% increase. That's bigger than probably anywhere else they would have. So of course, Asia would be their biggest growth right now. It's also the area where they have, where they're nobody cares about them. So any new people they have in that area is more growth than they would have in any other area. Come on, you should know this by now, Joaquin. Let's go. That's how that stuff works. Growth is growth, he said on PC. Well, they probably don't, like I said, they don't have anybody playing on PC in there, so 0 people to 100 people is massive growth. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's a few players, but I'm saying the players over there are certainly less than the amount of players they have in the UK or the US or some of the European countries. So any sort of growth in Asia is going to be more significant on the percentage side than anywhere else because you're starting at a lower number. Come on, you need to realize this. Widowbox says, "People Can Fly's Project Maverick revealing in 2025? That's another game that we don't really know anything about other than I think it's a Xbox IP. They did do Gears Judgment. We know they're co-deving on Gears E-Day. So is it Gears related? Is it something else? I don't know. Is it the Gears collection? Not sure. But yeah, that's just another game. I mean, hey, this Tony Hawk thing came out of nowhere, and now it's supposedly releasing this year. So that's pretty awesome. Let me see. Is there anything else I missed? Almish says they forgot to ask about Banjo. I mean, that is true. XboxERA didn't ask about Banjo. So will Banjo be a reality at some point? I don't know. It's one of those things where you never say never, right? I mean, look how much gaming has changed in the last 10 years. 10 years ago, if you would have said PlayStation was going to be putting their games on PC, and then also some games on PC day one, and then Xbox would be like fully multi-platform outside of a couple exclusives like Avowed or South of Midnight, people would have called you crazy. Never would happen. That like cross-play. Can you imagine going back to 2015 and being like, at some point in the future, users on Xbox and PlayStation will be able to play games with each other? Nuh-uh, because back then, buying the system with the bigger user base was something you wanted to do because the game's multiplayer portion would have a bigger user pool. Like, think about all the things that have changed in the last 10 years regarding that stuff. But if you went back and told your younger self that, you wouldn't believe it. So I'll never say never about Banjo. Never say never. And I do think Xbox putting their games in more places is probably helps a Banjo be a thing, because now you can sell it to an audience that probably wants it, aka the Switch audience. Because let's be honest, outside of a few hardcore Banjo fans like Paris or Mr. Boomstick, I don't really think Banjo has that big of an audience on the Xbox platform. And I think they know that, which is one of the reasons why they haven't done one. But now, if you're just being like, hey, we just ship everywhere, then Banjo makes more sense because Nintendo players love it. So yeah, I think there's a better chance Banjo gets made now than it ever was before. Crippling Debt says, played Banishers Ghost and Eden off your recommendation, Rant. Absolutely fantastic game. It was, wasn't it? It was a game that came out last year. Not many people know about it or played it. It was from Dontnod. And it was really good. It had a really touching story. The gameplay was pretty tight. I know some people call it like God of War light in a way, and I definitely could see it with some of the combat, but man, the two characters, the main characters, I thought were fantastic. It was touching in a way that a lot of games aren't. And I do wish more people played. I did think I heard them say that it didn't perform up to expectations or it didn't do well, which I'm not surprised because I think I don't think it was a game that showed off well in trailers, and some people just look at that and were like, this is a B tier game or something. But Banishers Ghost of New Eden I wish more people played that and more people got to experience that game because it was great. Spider-Man says with the $4.99, Microsoft has a good game when journalists write articles asking when it is coming to PlayStation. Love the show. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Some of that I think is for SEO. They write like, hey, when is this coming to PlayStation? Some of that's SEO work. But also, I mean, it's a question you have to ask if Xbox is putting their stuff everywhere. Like, why isn't this game Avowed? Especially considering Outer Worlds 2 is multi-platform day one. Why isn't Avowed? And I think it just comes down to timing and resources, really. Like, if Avowed was coming out next year, it'd probably be multi-platform day one. And a team like Compulsion, which is really small, making South of Midnight, they probably just didn't have the capability to do multi-platform development like that. Like, you look at like ABK, they clearly do. You look at Bethesda, they clearly do. But Compulsion's a smaller studio, so they probably, it's probably not in the cards from them. Like Jez says, any of the exclusives they might have in the future are going to be incidental for various reasons. So, but yeah, it's nice to see, like, hey, Avowed's great. When's it come on another platform? Because you're admitting that the game's good and that you want it on your platform of choice. So, Web Dave, member for 3 months. What's going on, buddy? He says, Jez and Randall Thor, you guys going to Xbox Summer Showcase in June? I hope to meet up with a lot of community members. Hit the like button. Indeed, hit the like button. Am I going to go to the Xbox Summer Showcase? Probably not. I don't know. I haven't really decided yet. That's in June. I would 4 months away or less than 4 months away. I'm probably not gonna go. I know I always say that, and then I'm like, oh, but next year. I don't know. The more I think about it, I don't think I'm gonna go this year. So maybe next year, maybe never. Maybe I only ever go in that E3 2016 and I never go to another thing. But yeah, I don't really think I'm going to be at this year's. I know, which is going to disappoint Colt. Because Colt's been wanting me to go, and he always gets disappointed when I decide not to go. Windowed Xbox says, we got Ninja Gaiden 2 Black in January, Avowed in February, South of Midnight in April, and Doom in May. But what will happen in March? Tony Hawk? Well, let's see. March has Atom Fall. I mean, if you're talking strictly like Game Pass stuff, or if you're talking first party. Well, Ninja Gaiden Black wasn't first party stuff. Whittia says Rand never goes anywhere. That's true. I don't know. It'd be weird if it was like Chicago. If the showcase was here, I'd go. But it's like, oh, I got to go to LA, and that's a 4.5 hour flight. It's just like, I don't know if I want to do that. I'd rather hang with you guys here and watch the show anyways. I don't know. I don't think Tony Hawk's going to release in March. I mean, I guess it's certainly possible they could announce it in March and then being like, it's out in 2 weeks. But if you're looking at like Game Pass, like Atom Fall is supposed to be out in March. But I'm not really sure what the other March releases are. I mean, there's Assassin's Creed Shadows on the 20th. I mean, that's going to be a big game. So, Rand is a recluse. Yeah, I'm introverted. I'm introverted. I like to just kind of large crowds and whatever it's not something that I enjoy. I just enjoy small settings with people. I just did Spider-Man. I just talked about it if you were listening about that stuff. So, let me get to some of these Patreon questions. We don't have many because I think Jez got up the question and answer thread a little bit later in the day because he's down there enjoying the sun. So I'm going to read some of these questions and then see what's going on. We got Vito saying, maybe better for Jez, but after Piscatel's interview with Kind of Funny, I asked him if he knew Microsoft allocated Game Pass revenue when greenlighting and reviewing game profit and loss sheets, and he didn't know. Does anyone know? I'm thinking of Avowed being a really good game to me, but probably having the most players on Game Pass. I feel like that information is probably kept pretty securely internally about, Game Pass revenue and their P&L sheets. But yeah, I'd agree with you on Avowed having the most players on Game Pass, for sure. Silas says, greetings to the All-American Xbox 2. One of the selling points I've heard from console gamers is the plug-and-play nature of it. Insiders seem to think that as the differentiation, I said that wrong still, with the new Xbox consoles is the PC storefronts will be accessible. Doesn't that fly in the face of the simplicity of a console? It seems like a needless proposition that nobody is asking for, and there are plenty of affordable mini PCs out there. I mean, I guess it all comes down to the solution of it, Silas, right? I would agree with you in the sense that if you bought an Xbox and it's like, here's the plug-and-play method, but if you wanted to use Steam, well, you got to do this thing, and then it boots up Windows, so then you would need a keyboard and mouse, and then it becomes just like PC gaming in a way, which is why I think whatever they would have to do would have to be more of an elegant solution. Like as simple as a button press in a way, where it was like it'd be super easy to get to the Steam store and then play any of the games on the Steam library and go back and forth. Like, I understand and I can envision like the selling point of the next Xbox console and handheld being like your entire Xbox games library plus your entire Steam library. That could be a compelling argument, but it would have to like work right. It would have to be, like I said, an elegant solution to it. If it's just like, I don't know, you have to like press the left stick down while holding both bumpers and down on the D-pad, and it opens up dev mode, and then you got to plug in your your keyboard and then bring up the Windows thing and then install Steam or whatever. Yeah, I think that's probably a step too far for a lot of people who buy for the simplicity of the console, like the ability to just plug it in and it works. But we'll see. I mean, maybe it doesn't happen. maybe the storefront stuff was just a wish that Phil wanted about being able to have different storefronts on there. Maybe it's not something that could actually work because they couldn't come to agreement with any of that, with Valve or with Epic. It's just that we know Phil's talked about it, so it definitely seems that sometimes Phil leaves you breadcrumbs to follow his line of thinking and the things they're doing. So we'll see. Good old Collinwood says, hello, Rand. Rand, did you watch Corin Moriarty's Icarus essay? If so, what did you think? What would an interview between Moriarty and Phil Spencer be like? Well, that would be a very interesting thing. I did watch some of it. I mean, it was a fine video. I don't really think he's wrong about the reasons why Xbox is doing what they're doing. Like, I do think ABK has a big part of the reason it is, but I don't know. I know it kind of comes across like Colin doesn't like Phil, so I sort of wonder if you're looking at like a hostile interview situation there, or if he would put that all away just to be able to ask questions. But what questions would he ask? I'm not really sure. Like, what questions are left to be asked? And, like, would you actually be able to give answers? I feel like that's also something that has to be said. Like, it's cool to listen to Yoshida talk about this stuff because he's probably has NDAs about certain things, but Yoshida's definitely being open about a lot of stuff, which you probably wouldn't get an interview him while he was with PlayStation. But now that he's gone, he's able to say more stuff, right? If Phil's still the head and he went on Colin's show, I'm not really sure what type of answer you'd get from the questions that would be any different from the answers he would give Destin or Paris, because it's still just going to be, hey, we have our timeline on how we're going to announce certain things and we're going to do stuff. And the responses I'm going to give are, kind of PR-ish. And honestly, I don't even know if, like, Colin would even want him on for that reason. It would maybe be after he left the company where he could probably speak without having to think about the PR stuff. But I'd watch the interview. But, I watched Paris's interview and Destin's interview with Phil and XboxERA's interview with Phil. So, there were some cool things said in all of them. And they all did pretty well. They did a really good job. Sick and Tired says, hi guys, not game related, but have you guys seen Mr. In Between, one of the best TV shows ever? It's up there with Breaking Bad and The Wire. Binged it this week, and it's one of the best shows I've seen. If you want a show that's easy to watch, funny, violent, and extremely well written, this is the show. It's like 95% at Rotten Tomatoes. I've never heard of Mr. In Between. Is this a new show? Did it recently just come out? I think everybody's heard of Breaking Bad and The Wire, but I have not heard of Mr. In Between. I'll have to check Rotten Tomatoes or to check out when it actually came out. But I have been looking for another show to watch while I wait for Severance to end and Invincible to end. I'm kind of in between shows right now, just kind of waiting so I can binge those stuff. So I'll definitely check out Mr. In Between. Pandaman77 says, what do you think Chicagoans did to piss off the sports god? It's so painful. I don't know, man. It is so painful, isn't it? At least I was alive to see the entire Michael Jordan Bulls run, which was amazing. Even when Derrick Rose was with the Bulls and I got really back into basketball because of it, it was great. But yeah, look, the White Sox won the World Series, and I got to see it, and they were my favorite team in sports. And I never thought they would ever win, and they won. So I'm sort of content. I saw the Sox win. I saw the Bulls win. There was 3 Blackhawks championships. I saw those. And yeah, I know like recent years haven't been good, and the Bears haven't been good either. And I've never seen the Bears win. I was 4 when they won the Super Bowl, so I don't remember it. Yeah, I think some of it has to do with management. I think Jerry Reinsdorf's probably the worst owner in sports. They need to get rid of him so the Bulls and the Sox can thrive. And we'll see how the Bears do with their new coach. But at least I got to experience greatness with the Bulls and that 1 year with the White Sox. So I don't really stress much about Chicago sports being in the state it is right now. But it does need to be better, considering how big of a market Chicago is, and their sports teams are just awful. It's a shame, man. It's really a shame. All right, let me check to see what's Meat Puppa says Reacher on Amazon Prime is good. I did watch the first 2 seasons of Reacher. I will watch the 3rd one, but once again, I'm going to have to wait until the whole season's out because I don't watch stuff that is... I'm the opposite of Paris. Paris is all about, oh, watch it week to week. Like, who wants to watch stuff week to week? Just give me the whole thing at once, and I'll decide how I want to watch it. So I'll watch Reacher when it also finishes up. Although I think Paris binge watched Severance, and now he's loving Severance season 2, which, you know, and he loved it because he binged it. It's the proper way to watch a TV show. What else we got here? Anybody else got anything? Any questions or anything they want to say before we get out of here? Because there's not much more. There's like the Cyberpunk sequel wants the best crowds ever, which is cool. I don't know. I see a lot of people talking, dunking on Avowed and its crowds or its lack of crowds and stuff. That didn't really matter to me at all. Like I don't know. Like that sort of stuff just I don't really care about. Pat Rock is lurking. Whittier says let's get out of here. We probably will get out of here. Yeah, you know what? I think that's where we're come to an end. I don't know what we're gonna do for next week. Jez is still on vacation, so I'll have to get some people to make up for that, and it won't be Cog or Colt, so I'll have to ask somebody new. Maybe I'll get Paris on here, and we could talk and chat with Paris. David says, "Are you switching to PlayStation, Rand?" No, I may not like. I may not like the Xbox strategy. I understand it from a business reason, and I'm really, really, really super excited for all the games Xbox are going to release next 5 years. But no, I'm not switching to PlayStation. So I don't know where that even comes up. I'm not switching to PlayStation. If I would move anywhere, it would be to PC, and I'm not moving to PC. So just because I question Xbox's decisions sometimes, because let's be honest, they change their decisions like a girl changes their makeup. At one point it was this, and then a couple years later it's this, and then another point it was this. They're always changing strategies. And I don't know, maybe they change their strategy in their minds 2 years from now again. Who knows? So it is what it is. But no, I'm not switching to PlayStation. I might get a PS5 Pro because of Phase 23 BKNY to play like PlayStation games on it, like the exclusives like Ghost of Yotai. But that's really the only time I turn on my PlayStation. I haven't turned it on this year yet, and I'm not sure when I will. Maybe for Lost Soul Aside, but that's in May, so I don't know. But yeah, other than that, I hope you guys had enjoyed the show. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We will be back next week. I don't know what we're going to talk about or who we'll have on, but we'll definitely be here. And I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. And with that said, keep it gaming, guys. Later.